Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Accolonn here, and welcome back to the Frozen Sodium Throne. Rurikhan, how you doing, brother?
I am doing fantastic for once. Isn't that a rare thing, huh? I actually feel good. I don't think I even slept that much, but for some reason I've just had more energy because I've been working out a little bit more. So it's good stuff, man. I'm good to go. I'm set to friggin' take on the internet by storm.
Did you start working out, or have you always worked out and you're just now doing it a little bit more?
I've started working out more kind of. At least I've been making an effort to do so, and I kind of feel like it makes me feel better, you know?
It does, actually.
Yes.
Ever since I started going to the gym in the mornings, I feel a million times better. It just gives you that fucking start to your day, increases your energy intake, all that shit. So definitely can recommend. If you feel piss poor every single day, start going to the gym.
Yes.
It's sore as fuck, and you're pretty much always sore, but hey.
And here's the thing.
Fun.
Even if you can't go to the gym, like get a bunch of dumbbells or something and just like do some push-ups, do some squats. Like just push-ups and squats will drive up your energy like nobody's business. It's fan-freaking-tastic, dude. I'm going to get jacked and ripped, and I'm going to turn to the Hulk. No, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to work out that
Especially if
hard.
you're a guy, by the way. If you're a guy, squats is like the best exercise you can do, because it is the exercise that releases more testosterone than any other. So it is a good fucking exercise to do as a guy. Just a couple of squats, even if it's just fucking air squats, you know, just do like 20, 30 air squats every 2-3 hours. Good to go. But anyways, we've got, again, a full fucking topic list of topics that we, of course, will not cover, because we will only get to about 2 or 3 of them. Which is, you know, I mean, this is the worst show to watch if you're looking for news in the gaming industry, because we're basically giving you like 3 bits of news, and then the rest is just not fucking covered. Unless it's important enough that it goes over to the next week, and we put that on top of the list next week, which is rare, but it does happen.
I think the key aspect of the show is in the delivery. You understand? That's where the real key aspect of this show is, which is a good place to be in. Just hit the delivery, nail the delivery, and boom. And let's get started. This is actually a topic that you wanted to talk about. So I think that everybody's noticed that there's been a little bit of an MMORPG resurgence, particularly with I think you gave out a really good sentence a couple of podcasts ago where, you know, World of Warcraft was kind of failing a little bit, and a little bit. It's like World of Warcraft was fumbling, and a lot of publishers were like, "Whoa, the king does bleed," and you know we start seeing more and more MMORPGs coming out and stuff, and even the ones that are already on the market are like improving themselves significantly. Which again, that's where the whole resurgence comes from. But you were telling me about how you've been seeing an increasing sentiment of people quitting MMOs. Yeah.
It's sort of weird, because there's a resurgence from people that have quit years ago when MMOs really was in its lull period. So for a really long time, it's basically been World of Warcraft and nothing else. Final Fantasy was already around, and it was already really good. The problem was very few people knew about it, and those who did know about Final Fantasy knew of it from its original launch. So a lot of people were like, that game's shit. I'm not going to play that. So what else do you play? Because Star Wars, shit, right? At least in terms of anything that most MMO players would care about. If you're someone that cares about story, Star Wars is great, but most MMO players don't just play for the story.
See, Star Wars almost would have been a better single-player game, I feel like.
I mean, it's built as a single-player game. The entire story is fully voice-acted. It's an entire plot that it plays out, and the worst parts of that game. And I'm at level 40, I think, in Star Wars, and I will say this: the worst part of that game is the dungeons. Like whenever I get a quest that I have to go into a dungeon for, I loathe that, because the fighting is horrible.
I thought they were good.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of them, just because the combat is horrible. Like, the combat really doesn't flow. When you think of being a Jedi, Star Wars does not deliver the Jedi experience. At least not the way that I wanted. It's not like if you're have you played The Lost Jedi?
The Last Jedi. Is that the recent one? No, that was Fallen Order.
Yeah, from Respawn.
No, that was Fallen Order, not The Last Jedi. Last Jedi was the movie, dude.
No, but it's something like it could
it's
be
Fallen Order,
but it's the
Fallen
Lost
Order.
Jedi, right?
No, it's
It
not.
is the Lost Jedi because he is literally the Lost Jedi.
But it's not called. I don't think it's called The Last Jedi. What the hell?
Let me just see.
No, we have to fact check this. What the hell?
I'm checking now.
Fallen Order. I think it's just
it's
called
Star Wars Jedi.
Star Wars
Fallen
Jedi
Order,
Fallen Order. Yeah. No, I've played that.
The reason I thought Lost Jedi is he is literally the Lost Jedi. Like, that's how they find him, because they didn't think any Jedi still survived.
Yeah.
And then they discover him on a fucking like
I think it was on a slave planet,
breaking things up. Yeah, slave planet sort of thing. And he just happens to have like a shit ton of Jedi powers and crap. Or at least he's
strong in the Force. They didn't bring up the midichlorians. They're like, oh, we don't talk about the midichlorians. At least I don't remember them bringing up the midichlorians.
I haven't played that much yet, but I will say in Jedi: The Fallen Order, that the combat there is phenomenal, right?
Yeah,
it is what you want for a Jedi.
It was like they were very inspired by Dark Souls and whatnot, so that's kind of like the vibe that they went for. That game was a lot of fun, and on top of it, it was even though it wasn't like an amazing Star Wars story, it was an okay Star Wars story, which is like the best we can hope for these days. After the sequel,
I mean,
you can only expect you can get an okay Star Wars story every now and then. That's about as far as they're willing to go.
No, I think Respawn did a really solid job on it. I think for what it was, it delivered on what people wanted from it, and the ratings show that, right? It got a 4.1 from audiences out of a possible 5. It got an 8.5 out of a possible 10 on IMDb.
Yeah, I did.
So it's decent.
Of
course, I even
did like a full
IGNs give it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's IGN. But I don't think it's a 9 out of 10 game, because 9 out of 10 means close to perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that. I would give it 7, maybe 7.5.
I don't really rate games. It usually the way that I go is like, hey, is this worth playing? Is it not worth playing? And to me, it was like, hey, if you like Star Wars, you'll probably enjoy this. It was an enjoyable journey, basically.
Oh yeah, definitely. But this is where Star Wars: The Old Republic falls flat, in my opinion, because it doesn't have that. If you want to be a Jedi, that is the worst game you could play in order to be a Jedi. Not from a story perspective, but from a combat perspective.
See, because I played as a smuggler, because like my favorite character's on Solo, I was like, yeah, dude, this is cool. Because the smuggler was all about getting into cover and doing stuff, and it's more about pop out and shoot and whatnot, and that kind of worked better with that combat, I felt like. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool.
I mean, I love the story. I'm not such a fan. But anyways, back to the original sort of point. This is why we never finish news stories.
Yes, I know. We get on tangents.
We go into a fucking tangent about the combat in 2 different games.
It's very important to talk about it.
Yeah. What I've seen is a lot of people quit back in the day just because maybe they were a little bit tired of World of Warcraft. Let's be real. World of Warcraft have had a couple of rough years. And there was nothing else to play, so they went to single-player games. But, as we know, there's something special about MMOs.
Yes.
First-person or single-player games are great, and they're a lot of fun, and they can do things that MMOs can't do. But MMOs can do things that they can't do, and there's something special about that. So those people are now returning in great numbers. But what I've seen from my Q&As and my discussions with people on Discord and stuff like that, there's more and more of the quote-unquote old guard sticklers, the ones who never actually left, that have reached a point where they're like, I can't take this anymore. As you saw with that Reddit post that got like a great many upvotes as a result of this. And you can see in the comments as well. And this is not just, I linked this one to you, But if you go on the MMORPG subreddit, you'll see many posts like this. And that's why I've been following this sort of as a background story.
It's not even like I'm surprised, because like I'll see on my main channel where I don't cover MMOs, every time I mention an MMO in passing, like I'll talk about 14 or I'll talk about World of Warcraft, you get a sentiment that a lot of people feel like they've been burned by the MMO genre to the point where they're like, no, I don't mess with MMOs anymore. Like I don't, if it's an MMO, I'm not interested. It's like people don't even consider that there can be interesting experiences in a lot of ways whenever it comes to discussing MMOs. Even in this channel, which is mostly dedicated to MMOs, there's still people there that are still feeling burned by the MMO genre, which I kind of feel is in a large part due to the fact that, a lot of companies jumped onto it due to the fact that, hey, it's the hot new thing. Look at this World of Warcraft thing. Look at all of these sales. They just kind of tend to follow the money, right? Which leads to having a bunch of games that actually don't have a soul. You have to be extremely passionate about developing an MMO if that MMO is going to be successful. And, the introduction of more and more pay-to-win mechanics, people no longer feel like a lot of MMOs are a balanced, a fair playing field. Let's call it that. It's more like, if you put money in, it's whatever. And I've seen the argument from like, how sometimes you have streamers that they will, because of the fact that they are playing like a pay-to-win game, and they're like, oh, I'm going to expose this pay-to-win game. I'm going to spend a bunch of money on it. And they essentially end up normalizing the whole thing. We talked about this. I don't know if it was on the previous podcast or if it was in another video that I talked about that, but they end up normalizing the whole thing. And it's like people end up not really enjoying that, because what ends up happening is, hey, it's normalized now, so everybody's going to start spending money, and there's more and more people spending more and more money on these free-to-play, pay-to-win games, and you lose that equalizer that used to be. It's like, hey, I joined into a game, I want to be able to make things be fair. And sometimes some of these streamers bring up the argument, it's like, well, it's never been fair because some people can play for more time than others. And it's like, well, yes, but that is something that we are kind of like willing to accept, I feel like, because, hey, look, time is time. It is what it is, right? You put in more time, you get to be better. I just think it's I fundamentally disagree with the whole thing of like, oh, you can pay for convenience, pay to keep up, because at the end of the day, it ends up being paid to not be inconvenienced. That is what ends up happening.
So I will say this: it's actually frightening to see how far we've fallen.
Yeah,
because I remember way back in the day, right? And I've been playing WoW since the early days. And I remember back in Wrath, it was so MMOs started out as being this almost ticket to print money. If you made an MMO, you would just automatically make a shit ton of money. So what would happen is every single company that came up in the ranks would make their MMO. And there was a time where you would get like new MMOs almost every month. There would be a new MMO. And we would usually look at those MMOs and we would literally just say, no, thank you. Because every single one of these unknown companies that were making MMOs would have things like level skips that you could buy, or, buy increased XP, or you could buy gear or some shit like that, like they had cash shops. And I remember being a WoW player back in the day, and we would be like, oh my God, thank fuck we're able to pay a $15 a month subscription so we don't have to deal with this crap. And it was a huge discussion back in the day where we would go, should WoW go free to play? And everyone would be like, no, fuck. Because then we're going to have to deal with the same shit that all these other MMOs have, which is cash shops and just disgusting monetary bullshit and monetizations. And what's ended up happening is that all of those games that used to have a subscription because, you paid your subscription so that you didn't have to deal with those things, now have that subscription plus you having to deal with those things.
Yeah.
Because, all of them now have a cash shop and ways to buy boosts or levels or skip levels or get extra, extra XP or anything like that. They're all now baked into a $15 a month game that you have to pay for in order to play, but then also pay for some of the content because not all the content's part of the game. It's incredible how far we've fallen, and I can see why for so many people that have stuck it out, They've tried to stay with it. They've reached the point now where they're going, look, it doesn't appear to me as if any of these companies still care about making good video games. Instead, what it feels like is most of these companies are far more interested in how much can we make. And once we figure out how much we can make, that's when we'll start looking at, so how good can we make the game, considering we have to make as much money as possible, you know? So I understand why people have gone, yeah, I'm done, you know, especially since you go on Steam, there's thousands of games there that you can play that have zero cash shops, zero disgusting monetizations. It's just a game, buy it and play it. Why wouldn't you, you know? Especially since if you just buy World of Warcraft, you're instantly inundated with multiple versions of the game. It's not just go buy Dragonflight. It's like, well, do you want the epic version, the legendary version, the digital legendary version, the collector's edition? Which version of the fucking 500 versions do you want? They're not that different, but every single one of them will give you something else. Now, are you going to level through the most boring leveling experience you've ever had in your life because you will not understand a single thing after you've leveled to max level? Or are you just going to buy a level skip? You know, obviously you have to make that decision too. Then there's a cool mount that releases not in the game because none of the cool mounts are in the game. You have to buy it off of the shop. And as a player, you're looking at this and going, dude, I literally just paid you $15 yesterday, and now you're charging me $25 for this mount in the fucking game. That, you know, what is this? How do you value this shit?
I think that a lot of these companies are maybe beginning to regret some of this stuff because, yeah, did they make money in the short term? Yes, they did. But ultimately, they ended up creating a massive amount of resentment within the community. Now, there are people who ignore all of this resentment still, for sure. And basically, they consume the game anyway. But, like, I see in a lot of cases where there's... For instance, you talk about Blizzard nowadays, and there's mostly going to be instantly comments of people saying like, oh no, I don't trust them. They're never going to be good again. They're never going to release anything good again. Like, that's kind of the sentiment. You talk about EA. Like, I talked about, for instance, an article that came up from EA yesterday where they are they're working on a Monster Hunter type game with Omega Force, and it's being published under the EA Originals. Now listen. Yeah, of course. I know that you're see where you went to. You were like, oh yeah, EA, yeah. Like, actually look to where you went to. Like, for the people listening in audio, Accolonn basically instantly face palmed the second he heard EA, right? So,
dude, EA is like my fucking cancer button.
But listen,
you say EA, I get cancer in my asshole.
And I'm not
just instantly.
I'm not going to defend EA. I want to make sure you understand. But notice that I said published under the EA Originals label. So let me tell you some of the games that have been published under the EA Originals label. It Takes Two. I've heard nothing but good things about this game. Same. Unravel and Unravel 2. I actually played both of these games. These are really good games. You know, it's not really a genre that I tend to get involved in too much, but it is like a platformer genre, puzzle platformer. It's got beautiful like sceneries and shit. It's very artsy. It's really cool. The Unravel game. This was a game that I was actually in the presentation where this game was revealed, and the developer's an indie guy, walked out on stage, started crying with this little doll that he had, like shaking and shit, because like he was so excited that the game was getting published. Like, good game, no microtransaction nonsense, nothing. A Way Out, same thing. And here's another interesting thing about It Takes Two and A Way Out. These are co-op only games, so they need to be played cooperatively with two players, but only one person needs to own the game. So like, if I own one of these games, I can send you something called like a friend pass or something, and you're able to download the full game. And so long as you're playing with me, we can play the full game together. Yeah. Because like, these are very like positive experiences for people on the stuff that is published in this label. Now, I don't know if all of the games are like that, because apparently Rocket Arena is also published under this label, and that's like one of those online shooter things, whatever. But there's other single player good experiences like Sea of Solitude. I hear good things. Faye, I don't know if that is good or not. Lost and Random. So there are titles in here that are not just the monetization bukkake that EA usually serves up, like FIFA, Madden, all of this bullshit. So this game is being published under this label of EA, right? But people are still like, nah, fuck you, it's EA. EA fucking blows. I don't want... Like, imagine how much games like It Takes Two and Unravel and whatnot have been harmed over the fact that they've been published by EA.
Well,
even though they're not bad games. It's just these companies have built this reputation for themselves of ridiculous predatory monetization, and nobody can take them seriously anymore. And they're going to start feeling it. This is why, like, at some point earlier this year, there was that rumor that EA was trying to get bought out. EA's like, hey, man, anybody want to buy us? So anybody want to come in and buy us, please? We're for sale.
Dude, I would buy EA if only to get my hands on BioWare. Like, if I had the money, I would buy EA so that I could get BioWare. I would fucking close EA as quick as I could, and I would just continue with BioWare. Because, fuck Battlefield. Yeah. I just want to revive all of the BioWare games and bring them back to their former glory days. But you know why they're doing this? It's actually Mike Morhaime that used to use this what's the English word for it? This analogy. So Mike Morhaime used to say, there are two currencies as a video game developer. There is the money that you make from physical game sales and cash shops and things like that. And then there is what he called goodwill. Now, goodwill is a currency just like any other. It's literally more important, according to Mike Morhaime, than money, because goodwill is sort of stored up over time. So you make a great game, you get some goodwill from the community. You make another great game, you get some goodwill from the community.
I think the thing about goodwill is that it has a high interest return rate. So it's like it scales really nicely. The problem is that most of these publishers, they maxed out their goodwill credit cards. They maxed them out.
Yeah. But
they're in massive debt.
But you see, that's exactly the thing. Goodwill is almost better than money. Why? Because if your goodwill is on let's take CD Projekt Red, for example. CD Projekt Red built a goodwill basis with gamers everywhere, thanks to Witcher 2, and Witcher 3. By the time Witcher 3 was out, gamers couldn't... Like, if CD Projekt Red asked gamers to drop to their knees and suck their dicks, gamers would be smiling like donuts immediately.
I wouldn't do that.
Because it's...
Fuck that.
Well, noise. You're not a Witcher fan. But,
No, I am a Witcher fan. For those of us that
do play Witcher, it is just one of those companies that can do no fucking wrong. So when they came out and they said, oh, you're Cyberpunk, everyone immediately was like, okay, this is going to be good. I don't even have to fucking think about this. I will buy that game. And I pre-ordered it without even thinking. I wasn't too bothered because it's CD Projekt Red. It was a failure. So they've lost a little bit of credibility. They still have a lot, in my opinion. I still trust CD Projekt Red to do the right thing, because after it failed, they came back and they've been doing a great job of getting it back. But it has cost them goodwill.
Yep.
Now, you look at companies like EA, you look at companies like Ubisoft, you look at companies like Blizzard. They have effectively, for the last decade, expended all of their goodwill.
Yeah, they maxed out their credit cards. Goodwill credit card maxed out.
They are at zero, if not in the minus, with gamers. So whenever any of these companies now bring out a game that is even slightly questionable, they lose so much potential revenue. Because everyone's sort of going, I don't know. Like, for example, Overwatch 2. Am I going to buy Overwatch 2? Fuck no.
Yep.
Because Overwatch 2 is Overwatch 1, change my fucking mind.
Yep.
It's just, I don't trust them to make a good game. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm an actual content creator and it's my job, I wouldn't even buy Diablo 4, because I don't trust that Diablo 4 isn't just going to be another disaster like Diablo 3.
I still don't know if I'm going to buy Diablo 4.
Well, I want to play it, because it's streaming and it's content. But that's really the only reason for it. So if anything, it's going to pay for itself because I'll be streaming it. So I'm not actually going to be spending any money on it. But outside of that, if there's better games that comes out around the same time, I'll probably skip it too. I'm not pre-ordering that shit for fucking, that's for naught. Right? I'm not pre-ordering that crap. I will buy it the day that it goes live. I have a very fast internet connection. It will take me like 10 minutes to download it. I don't give a fuck. But I will not pre-order.
that kind of like bringing us back to the discussion, I think that one of the big problems when it comes to the MMORPG genre and why people end up like building even more resentment is because when you're talking about a company dicking you over on a single player game, that's one thing where it's like, okay, that was fucked up, but it's a single player game. It's at the end of the day, it's kind of like whatever. But when you get fucked over on an MMORPG, like imagine you've spent a significant chunk of hours in World of Warcraft or a significant chunk of hours in SWTOR, ESO, Guild Wars, whatever, and then you feel like, oh man, I spent all this time doing this and now this company's like driving this game into the fucking dirt. Man, fuck them. Like there's much bigger investment when it comes to the MMORPG, which is why people are a lot more careful about getting invested in MMORPGs and they're not willing to give games as much of a chance as they used to back in the day. Like, for instance, I've been playing New World. We're going to be talking about it a little bit further in the show. And I find it interesting that there are people who have bought this game, right, when it came out. The game was like $40, whatever. So it's not like a huge barrier to entry. Yeah, $40 is still really expensive for a lot of people. But like when you take into consideration the cost that it usually is to jump into an MMORPG, because you're either jumping into a free-to-play that's pay to win out the ass, so your commitment is going to be an exorbitant amount of time, or you're jumping into something where you're talking about paying a monthly fee. Those are usually the two options. Very rarely do you get a buy-to-play model that is now redonkulous pay to win. There's a little bit of that in ESO, even though ESO has like the infinite bag for crafting materials and whatnot. There's a bit of that in Guild Wars 2, where again, it's not really pay to win, but there is a lot of pay for convenience in the form of like paying for bag slots. And I actually had a comment about this recently where I mentioned that in the video, and someone said, I was about to tell you that's not the case. I've been playing it for years, like over 2,000 hours in this game. And then I realized you're right because I did buy bag slots. And I'm like, yeah, of course you did, because you've been playing it for long enough to do that. But, you have a little bit of this. And in the case of New World, again, it was $40. And there still is no, from my understanding at least, there still is no pay for convenience. But because the launch of the game was somewhat disastrous, people are so hesitant to get invested into an MMO that they owned the game, and they came to my stream and they were asking me, is it really worth it to come back? I kind of don't think that it's worth it. Like, they own the game. There's no like cost to just like installing it and trying it out again, but people are still extremely hesitant to dedicate any amount of time to it because of the fact that like they're scared they're going to get fucked over again. And I'm not criticizing anyone who does this, by the way. I think you should be very careful of the way that you manage your time, because that is the one currency you are never going to get back. You spend 10 hours playing a game, and those 10 hours ain't fucking coming back, so you better hope you had a good time.
Well, that's another problem, really, with MMOs, right? Because the vast majority of MMOs, and this is sort of the one criticism that I can lobby against Final Fantasy XIV, as well as almost every other MMO out there. The vast majority of MMOs isn't designed to be enjoyed in the first few levels.
No.
This is why a lot of people, even though they own the game, they are like, should I come back? Because they know. It's almost instinctive at this point. You're going to get in, you're going to play, you're going to fucking hate it. It's going to be boring as shit. Because, it's designed to be that way, because almost all of them are designed to be good at max level. Now, Final Fantasy sort of rectifies this, because around about level 30, the story gets really good and you start to realize, well, actually, it was always about this story. It was never about anything else. Whereas almost all other MMOs, think about World of Warcraft. When does World of Warcraft actively get fun?
Yeah, you're talking about endgame, yeah.
Yeah, if you were to tell someone something about World of Warcraft to convince them to play, is there anything in the leveling experience that you would highlight as the reason for them to try and play that game? No, you'd be telling them about Mythic Plus.
I'll tell you what, though. A couple of years ago, like when you're talking actual vanilla, not classic, vanilla, when people still didn't know what was going on and like exploring the world and whatnot, there would be value there. because of the fact that, particularly if you're playing on a PvP server and you get to like Terran Mill for the first time, I have good memories of Terran Mill because that's when you get, at least from what I can remember in my server, that's where the real PvP experience starts happening. Like, you start having encounters with the Horde and Terran Mill, and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, fuck those guys. And, like, that is fun. Like, that was fun, like, discovering that and, engaging in that content.
So
nowadays, people actively avoid that.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's because World of Warcraft vanilla, at least the world was designed to be a character within the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, here's the world and we're going to give you a bunch of stories on top of it. The world was a character, the player, and this is literally from Blizzard themselves. This is not me making this up. Blizzard themselves said, the world is a character, the players is the content. Right? So it was designed that the players are content. The content is the player. That's why things like South Shore existed. And those were memories that you could share with your friends. We're like, dude, you have to see. We had this battle in South Shore. It was fucking wild, bro. Like, we were fucking him up. We were killing their flight masters. They were fucking crying like little bitch-ass babies. It was awesome. And your friend's like, God, I have to fucking try this. Yeah. Nowadays, you're not going to have that experience in any World of Warcraft expansion. It's all going to be about the end game. Oh yeah, we were doing this really cool Mythic Plus. It was on plus 15, and it was wild. My tank died twice, and I was raising him. Those are the experiences that you share, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should have a great end game experience, but the games are no longer designed to be good from day one. They're designed to get good. So when you sign up to a new MMO, you almost know instinctively, I need to get to max level, because that's when the game starts, and that can take a couple of days. It's not, especially if you have a job, you're talking about at least a week of leveling every evening to get to max level.
I don't really subscribe too much to the whole rush to max level, though. At least I haven't been doing that for most of the MMOs that I play. So, like, it took me a long time to get to max level in 14 because I was doing story. Then after I would do the story, I would do the relevant raids of set expansion and all of the things that I could, and then I would move on to the next one. Like, actually see all of the content. That's how I played through it. And for instance, New World, I also did not rush to the point where I'm almost like 200 hours in and I'm level 46, I think, because I spend a lot of time actually just exploring the world, like saying, oh, it's over there. Let me craft this thing. Like last night I was trying out some stuff that we'll be talking about. I don't want to get into New World just yet, but the point is there are systems in these games that do allow you to enjoy it before you get the end game. The problem is the communities as a whole, they are focused on the same mindset that you just brought up of like, no, got to get the end game super fast, got to get there, go, super fast. And yes, there are enjoyable things to do at end game, but I feel like not only the developers have to do interesting things along the way, but the community itself has to also start considering that maybe taking our time throughout some of these games might end up being a better experience than jumping to end game. Because I'm still not burned out on New World because I'm still not at level 60. There's still a million things for me to discover. But a lot of people are.
But you have to remember, it's conditioning. It's not like it starts that way.
Yeah.
No one starts playing Mass Effect and think to themselves, God, I have to get to endgame as quickly as possible, right? It's about that journey. It's about the story as it unlocks. This is the same thing that you brought up Final Fantasy. And Final Fantasy is a good example of an MMO that did it wrong at the start. Even with A Realm Reborn, it was a very slow burn in the beginning. Like, a lot of people quit in the first 30 levels because they just can't fucking stand getting through that shit. If you stick, you start discovering that it is all about the journey. It's not about the destination. And you have to enjoy that journey as much as possible. So it is an exception to that rule. Now, New World is sort of, it's a game that went through so much shit that I don't know if it really fits in any of the categories, because when it first launched, the early game experience was rather shit, but the end game experience was fucking atrocious. So, it didn't really have anything going for it. The only thing you could say about New World to a friend to get them in is that it's a beautiful world and the crafting is fucking sick. Other than that, there was nothing really to say about that game, and I have been meaning to get back into it just to try it out, but I'm busy with other shit. But yeah, this is sort of the problem is conditioning. So when people come into your stream and they're like, dude, should I try this again? They're doing it because they've been conditioned to know that MMOs start at max level. So they're gonna have to put in the effort to actually get to where the game gets good. And even when the game isn't like that, this is again, when I started covering Final Fantasy for the first time, I would get so many people in my comment section that be like, oh yeah, I tried that game, I quit at level 20, what a fucking shit game. And then I would ask them, so how did you play? And like, oh, I was just trying to get to max level.
Do all of the quests.
So you skipped the fucking story, right? And they're like, yeah, why would I read the story? I'm like, dude, because that's the fucking game.
That's the point.
The game is the story. If you don't read the story, what are you fucking playing? Because it's not meant to be played any other way.
There are people that skip the story and do end up enjoying the game significantly still, which I find interesting. There are a lot of people that will skip through the story and then like they might end up playing it later in New Game Plus or whatever, but they just enjoyed the raiding scene, which I can understand because the raids in that game are fucking awesome.
If you're like Scripe or, one of these hardcore raiders or something like that. But then there's also the example of someone like Quinn, who quit, skipped everything, paid to skip everything, got to max level, and couldn't understand a fucking thing. Like, the game just didn't make sense to him. Because he skipped the parts that would have taught him how the game actually functions and works.
Dude, it was hilarious watching him in that raid. Like, it was funny because, like, I think he overlapped like 2 or 3 telegraphs. Stood in all of them, and then was like, where were the heals? Bro.
Yeah.
Literally nobody could heal that. Like, your heal is going to be a resurrection, dude. That's your fucking heal. I'm going to battle res you.
Yeah, that's the sort of mindset that people have nowadays. And the sad part is that all new MMOs, as well as World of Warcraft and a couple of existing ones, play into that. They know that they can make more money by putting more effort into the end game, and then the early game gets completely forgotten.
See, the world is just
no longer a character.
I disagree with that. I don't think you can make more money by putting all of your eggs into the end game basket. As a matter of fact, I think it's the opposite. I think a big reason why World of Warcraft is beginning to suffer more and more, and like if you watch the Bellilar video where he talks about the number of guilds that cleared Mythic and the number of guilds that cleared Heroic and the huge decline that you are getting on said numbers, then you will see that like World of Warcraft is suffering. And what is it suffering from? It doesn't have any new blood. Why doesn't it have any new blood? Because the starting player experience is fucking terrible. You're going to funnel people from Exile's Reach or whatever the fuck it's called into fucking BFA? Like, people are going to have no investment into this. You need to be able to, like, work out a way for people to experience what it was like, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of TBC, a little bit of, like, you need to condense these experiences into, like, let's say, for a brand new player, like 5 hours of vanilla, 5 hours of TBC, 10 hours of Wrath of the Lich King, because that was clearly the best. And then, like, I don't know, 2 hours of Cataclysm or something. And then, like, a quick visit to Mist of Pandaria, like 30 minutes or some bullshit. Hey, there's pandas here, and let's leave. But basically, you need to be able to condense these stories into, like, a 30 hours or so leveling experience for the new players. And until somebody at Blizzard actually does that, the new player experience is going to continue to be miserable, which is terrible.
But you see,
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say you're committing what is called the Vulcan fallacy, where you assume that you're dealing with a rational actor. These gaming companies aren't rational. The people that make these decisions aren't gamers. And if you think about it, if you make a great leveling experience, you can't sell level boosts. Because why would anyone boost through a good leveling experience? I mean, it makes no fucking sense. So your sales are going to go down there.
Actually, here's the thing. It doesn't make a lot of sense, say, in Final Fantasy XIV, because your one character can play every role. But it does make sense in World of Warcraft, where say, oh, I want to play an alt. But it's like maybe you don't want to go through the leveling story again because you've already watched it, and then you can buy a boost. So you can still have a good leveling experience and sell boosts and, get the new player in. You can do
Yeah,
all
but,
of these things. They don't cancel each other out.
If we're talking about a proper good leveling experience, so again, I'm going to go back to single player games because they tend to have the best leveling experience, mainly because it's not built to be a leveling experience.
Yeah.
The levels is just sort of part of getting more powerful. If you go back to Mass Effect, I've done a playthrough now on virtually every single class that game has to offer, and every playthrough is different because of how you engage with the game based on the class that you play, how you view combat based on the class that you play, based on how you play the class. The gameplay and it's fundamentally different. Now, when I say make a good leveling experience, I'm talking about balls to the wall good. In other words, you have separate storylines for every single class that exists in the game, which is pertaining to that class.
Listen,
a great story, all that shit. Suddenly people don't want to skip it because there's new things to unlock there. You're not going to do that because you can't sell level boosts to a great storyline.
But it's like, look, you're asking for one story per class. Like, that's too much. I'm just asking for like one concisive 30-hour thing for every class. I think my idea is doable. I don't think your idea is doable.
No. I'm again not asking for a separate storyline for each class, but I'm not willing to say, because what we're doing here is we're now arguing over what is doable and what should be done. Right? What is doable is the bare minimum because that's how they make their money. What should be done is the absolute maximum to make sure that your game is as good as it can possibly be. And what I'm referring to when I say different storylines for different classes, Legion. Legion had a single storyline that played through the whole one, but depending on the class that you played, you got extra storylines for each of those classes. And that is part of what should be done for a great leveling experience, because now suddenly people aren't buying boost. But even then, we can go even further and we can say, okay, so when it comes to mounts, you're not going to sell as many mounts when your focus is on the entirety of the game. But at end game, when people start going, okay, I don't know what to do, so I'll just become a collector. Now you can sell a bunch of mounts. Now you can sell a bunch of like XP boosts and XP skips and all the rest. And World of Warcraft haven't dived into this stuff as much as they could, because I think just off the top of my head, I can think of like 5 new monetization things that Blizzard could do with their current model that would make them a crazy amount of cash.
Yep.
Let's
not talk about those. Let's not give them ideas.
No, I'm not giving them ideas. Although I think Bobby Kotick dreams of these things when he's fucking masturbating. But it's sort of like there's more money to be made when you focus purely on endgame, and also because focusing purely on endgame is so much less work than focusing on the holistic whole of the game. Because at the end game, all you have to deliver, and Blizzard literally is what they've done for the last 3 expansions, 8 dungeons, 1, maybe 2 mega dungeons throughout the course of the expansion, and 3 raids. And then, of course, you have the battlegrounds. Blizzard adds battlegrounds like once every 2 or 3 expansions, and you have your arenas. Very few get added there. So at the end of the day, that's all you have to do. When you have to make a good leveling experience, you have to probably 4 or 5 times the amount of content that you have to make for the game just in order for it to be a good leveling experience. Which one are you going to choose? The less work, more money, or much work, much money?
But again, it's not as I mean, we're kind of arguing back and forth, but it's like, it's not as if these things work just like that, because like I said, when you neglect your new player experience, you end up in the situation that you are right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
See, that's the thing. So you have to make a deposit into that new player experience at some point.
Yeah.
And Exile's Reach ain't it. Exile's Reach a glorified tutorial, bro.
Yeah, but this is why I said you're committing the Vulcan fallacy, because I agree 100% with you.
But companies don't have gamers there, yeah.
Exactly. If we assume rationality, then we're wrong. Because the fact is, they would make a crap ton more money if they had a great leveling experience,
yes,
a great starting experience, and a brilliant endgame experience. But because they're not gamers, they don't think of it this way.
It's one of those situations where companies grossly overestimate the importance of endgame, where endgame is important, but it's also important in order to make you money. I would argue it's almost more important to make sure that the game has good onboarding. Like if your end game is good enough, people will stick around. If you have excellent onboarding, you have more people jumping into the game, and then you have more money, and then you can use that money to improve the end game even more. So at that point, you'll have a good onboarding experience coupled together with great end game, which, people are going to be hooked at that point. The problem is nobody is willing to put in that effort almost. Well, I say nobody. Final Fantasy XIV is. They keep every new patch that you see in Final Fantasy XIV, they go back and they add new things to Realm Reborn, new things to Heavensward, new things to Stormblood. And people are like, bro, I'm an Endwalker. What the fuck do I care? You care because there's going to be new people coming into the game. And that way the game stays vibrant for a long time to come. And,
And you're probably going to do it again because you want to see what this new shit is all about. Yeah. And if I'm listening to the people that sort of retried some of those dungeons and trials that were completely reworked, they're loving it now. The new experience is so much different to the old one. So that is exactly it. But that's also, and I think a strong starting experience and a strong leveling experience just adds to the effect that the end game can have on you. Because when you're emotionally invested, it becomes so much more important. My favorite raid of all time is ICC. Why? Because I am so incredibly invested in the story of Arthas. I wanted to see how that shit ended. So I logged on every single day and I raided that shit every single day because I wanted to see the end of Arthas. I wanted to see how this story comes to an end. Same with Ulduar. Even with the trial of the Grand fucking Crusader. We were doing that shit. And while it was definitely not the greatest raid, although it did have some of the coolest instances. So, for example, the PvP fight there was just absolutely fucking brilliant. As far as a raid fight. And I'm kind of sad that we haven't had anything like that since. Because I thought it was a really cool idea. Sometimes executed poorly, but still pretty good idea. You were invested in it because you were invested in the story. Because the story was really good and you wanted to be part of it. Nowadays, it almost feels like a lot of people do dungeons and raids, even though they don't quite understand the significance of it. They're going to kill Zuval, and they don't really give a fuck about who Zuval is. It's all just about finishing the raid. You don't really give a crap about the actual story there. And that is also probably another reason why so few people are raiding these days, because a lot of people just don't see the point. They're not invested in the story. The raid's story doesn't matter to them because they don't even really follow the story that leads up to the raid. It is just all coming to an end.
I don't necessarily agree that it's about the story. I think that the raiding thing is more about like the arms race of the add-ons. I think that is what is breaking the raiding scene because you see people doing the raids in 14 and you don't see this same level of burnout of people like, oh, I have to quit raiding after this raid because I'm so stressed out over having to figure out which fucking add-on mechanic. Even with add-ons, the mechanics sometimes just like random bullshit. It's like, oh yeah, this mechanic is random bullshit. There's just not a whole lot you can do about it. Somebody's gonna fucking die because it's just the way that it goes. Whereas in 14, I feel like the mechanics are much more calculated.
That would have been so.
Listen. Here's. Think of it, for instance, the amount of nerfs that Blizzard has done to the current Mythic raid tier, which has been completely obscene from my understanding. I don't know if it was Mythic or but I remember watching on Baylor, there's like bunch of fucking nerfs, like every other week. Nerf this, nerf that, nerf the other. Bro, you want to know what was the biggest adjustment that Square Enix did to the current Savage tier?
Yeah.
They nerfed the final boss's health by 1%.
Well, there you go. But because they're not, so I just want to point out we are sort of talking about it's two different things. There is a problem with how Blizzard is designing their raids. That is true, but that would not shine through on normal, because normal is actually still one of those difficulties where you don't really need that many add-ons, because a lot of the abilities that would require those add-ons are either completely undertuned in normal or sometimes just straight up removed from the fight. You're not going to deal with that shit because it's just too difficult to balance on lower difficulties.
I think you overestimate the average World of Warcraft player.
Yeah, but normal would still, if people were invested in the story and they actually cared about how the story ends, normal would still see an incredible amount of people doing it, even if it is just the first few bosses until you hit those, because every raid has this. They have a number of bosses that can basically be done half fucking dead and drunk in a drunken stupor. And then they have those bosses that I call wall bosses, that sort of, you hit that wall and now you need some add-ons. But we're not even seeing that. If you watch Baliola's video, all of the numbers are down. Even the first boss is like super low compared to any previous raid.
I think that's also a consequence of, quite simply, a lot of the younger generation is just not playing MMORPGs, and the older generation does not have as much time to organize groups as they used to. So the only real solution there is to reduce the amount of players required for participating in a raid, which is kind of like the way that Final Fantasy is doing things. Like 8 players is a lot easier to organize than 20.
The thing is, it's not obvious to me that young people don't want to play MMOs. I just think MMOs these days are too shit to really get young people interested in them. But, I mean, I was young when I started playing WoW, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah, but it was different times.
Yeah, but I don't think times have changed that much. Sure,
mobile games, there weren't nearly as many mobile games when we were playing World of Warcraft, dude.
Yeah, but mobile games are fucking, like, I don't necessarily think that it's just young people.
Kids are growing with these mobile games, dude. Like, there's still kids nowadays.
I want to see something.
They're playing Fortnite on their phones. They're playing Genshin Impact on their phones. Like, this is what you are getting when it comes to gaming. And that's a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, even Genshin Impact, that is actually, yeah, this is it. Here we go. All right, so the number of mobile gamers in 2021 is 2.6 billion. 50% of gamers play mobile games while in the bathroom. 34.1% players in the US are of high-income households. 55% of players in the US are women, and 45% are men. Stats from 2020 show that 43% of women play games 5+ times weekly. In-app purchases have been made. 62% of mobile gamers under the age of 13. The average age of mobile gamers is 36.3 years.
Oh, God.
32.7% of mobile gamers are between the ages of 25 and 35. So you're not even talking about like that young. The average age being 36.3, then they say around 86% of Gen Zers play games on their mobile devices.
I don't want to believe this article.
But the funny thing about this is that of Gen Zers who do play mobile games, that 86% of them, or who do play games, 86% of them play mobile games.
Yep.
But the average age is 36.3. So that means that there are still more older people that play mobile games versus younger people that play mobile games. And I genuinely do believe that it is just a case of Gen Zers on, and this is, by the way, this is sort of one of those things where the gaming companies are going to fucking cock themselves very soon. You want to know why? It is wildly known, like everyone knows this, Gen Zers don't have money. This is the first generation that's going to be much worse off than any of the previous generations, right? So Gen Zers are already struggling. PC games are now becoming as fucking pay to win as most mobile games are. And you're dealing with an audience that already doesn't have the fucking money. And that might be why a lot of them are just not opting into the video game scene to begin with, because they don't even have money to do fun things. Why the fuck are they going to spend money on a video game that they also have to buy to play? If you look at it, I genuinely believe that it purely comes down to the fact that games nowadays are just in such a state that it's not getting young people involved in it. But I don't think it has to do with the genre. I think young people would still get into MMOs if MMOs actually made some fucking effort. The problem is, and I will say this, of the most people that I met in Final Fantasy XIV were quite fucking young. Like, I was actually quite surprised.
So it means that they can recognize that that additional effort that the developers are putting in.
Yeah,
would imagine.
they can most likely see that, hey, this seems to be a good game and it seems like the developers care, so we'll give it a try. We'll definitely try it out. Because in WoW, whenever I meet someone, they're my age. You know? And I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm not a toddler anymore. But when in Final Fantasy, I would say 80% of everyone that I met there was like between the ages of 16 and 24, which was eye-opening to me. Now, again, I know this is a tainted figure because it's one man's opinion and one man's anecdotal evidence, but, considering the fact that I meet very few young people that actually play WoW, most of them complain about WoW. They don't like it. They tried it, but they don't like it because of XYZ reason, that we've gone through millions of times before. So yeah, I do think that I think the best way to end this debate or discussion is there are many problems currently within the MMO markets, and you can basically close your eyes, throw a dart at a dartboard, and you will hit a problem, right? That's how many fucking problems, from early leveling experience to over monetization to underutilization of the end game to overutilization of the end game. It's just like, it's a mess right now. And I think it's a mess because I don't think any of those gamers, I don't think any of those developers are actual MMO gamers. I don't think they play MMOs, so they don't know what gamers actually like.
So fundamentally, the reason people are, coming roundabout to because this is still the first topic, guys, coming roundabout to the conclusion here is it seems to be that most MMO developers that are involved in MMORPGs just need to have developers there that actually play MMORPGs for fun, so that they can understand what is a fun mechanic versus what is not a fun mechanic, and also understand the reason why you need fresh blood, which, to be honest, marketing should be the first team that would understand why we need fresh blood in a video game. But marketing doesn't give a fuck. Marketing just wants to sell you the next fucking mount or whatever, which is dumb.
It's about easy money.
And by the way, I wanted to bring something up with a very rare Blizzard W.
Oh, yeah?
A very, very rare Blizzard W. I didn't put this on our topic list, but as I was talking about mounts, I got reminded. They added a new mount into the game, which is a Death Knight mount. It's actually a really cool looking mount. It's like this dragon looking thing with a bone face and like blue glowing wings and shit like that. Looks very in tune with like a Wrath of the Lich King theme, right?
Yeah.
They added this mount to the game, and all you got to do is log into World of Warcraft Classic and finish the Death Knight questline. I don't know for how long that is going to be available because I didn't check it, but I was like, wait, this is a mount that you can just play the game and get, and it looks good?
Yeah.
What? What is going on? Like, we have to acknowledge these very few Blizzard Ws and give them a lot of positive reinforcement and go like, there you go, Blizzard. That's how you fucking do it. Good fucking job, man. Giving people a mount that you can get by just playing the game. That
is good. That is definitely a W. And more of that, please.
Yes.
But I used to think that positive reinforcement was the way in which we get these companies to change their minds. But I don't think that anymore. Mainly because I think they know that they know what to do to keep us happy. They just choose not to.
Yeah, they choose not to
because it's easier to make that mount and put it on the cash store. And sure, not everyone is going to buy it, but you don't need everyone to buy it, right? The only reason World of Warcraft is doing this now more and more is because, so I have a contact that let me know that prior to the launch, so this was before Wrath's launch came around, but prior
Wrath
to
hasn't
the launch,
launched yet.
Yeah, but people are starting to come back because they're starting to get ready for it. So the launch is soon enough that the numbers are probably going up now. Yeah. Even I think like a month ago, the numbers started rising. But this guy told me, like, I think 2-3 months ago, we had this discussion. Now, he doesn't work for Blizzard, but he knows someone intimately that works at Blizzard. And when I say intimately, I do mean live in the same house intimately. And he
That's
told
not where
me,
I was going with that.
Yeah, but yeah, he told me that the numbers for WoW specifically is below 800,000.
I'm not surprised. I remember when I watched one of the first Bellular numbers videos, I typed in my title because I genuinely believe that World of Warcraft was probably sub 1 million. I was like, it's got to be like it's got to be really fucking struggling. Like, it's got to be really, really low. And yeah, it is a big problem for them because the game was not built to be able to be run with such a low player count, which is why they keep milking them dry with mounts. But still, you know, I'll acknowledge the rare Blizzard W. Because, you know, you have to at some point just be like, hey, they did a right thing here. Let's make sure that, hey, you guys did the right thing. Do more of these. Like, fucking just do more of these. True. Now, there's another topic when it comes to Blizzard, and that is apparently a survey's been going out.
Yep.
This is a very interesting survey. It's apparently asking people about how they feel about a potential Cataclysm Classic.
Yeah, we discussed this and the possibility of this, I think, last podcast or the one before.
I don't know. We've talked about this before. It's like, where did they go after Wrath of the Lich King? And fundamentally, after Wrath of the Lich King, you're talking about modern World of Warcraft. You're no longer talking about classic World of Warcraft. Yeah. The classic era of World of Warcraft kind of ended during Wrath of the Lich King, which is when they started adding a lot of the systems like Dungeon Finder, like more streamlined things and whatnot. Like, during Wrath of the Lich King is essentially when classic ended. Cataclysm is not really classic. So it's almost like Blizzard doesn't really know where to go from here. They just have no idea. Like, where do we go after Wrath of the Lich King? Who the fuck wants to play Cataclysm Classic? Now, I'm actually asking to anyone in this comment section, like, which one of you wants to go and play through Cataclysm Classic again? Because I didn't even play fucking I'm probably not even going to play Wrath of the Lich King, let alone fucking Cataclysm. What?
So I will say this. I liked Cataclysm. It all depends on which version of Cataclysm they go with. Are they going with the nerf the dungeons into the ground version, or are they going with the original cut my balls off dungeon version at the launch? Because I would probably go back if it's the cut your balls off version.
Wait, so launch. You wouldn't go back for Wrath of the Lich King, but you'd go back for Cataclysm?
No. I should probably clarify. In a world where I played Classic, I would go back for Cataclysm, cut my balls off. No, the reason I'm not going back for Wrath isn't because I hate Wrath.
Yeah, exactly. It's because
I've already played it.
You've already done it. Yeah, it's done.
I'm not that audience, right? I'm not the audience that they're going for because it's just something that I've already done. I'm not going to do it again. I know those stories off by heart, and considering the only reason I play WoW is for the story, I don't need to play that story again. I know it already. So yeah, for me, I'm not there, but in a world where I would play Classic, I would go back for Cataclysm. I would actually argue that I think Classic World of Warcraft ended in Mists, or at the end of Mists, because you are right, all of those systems that now have almost become sort of menu clicking were introduced back in those days, but a lot of the sort of old school nature of the game was still around even in Mr. Pandaria. You know, you still had the old school class design with the talents, even though the talents were slightly revamped in Cataclysm. They were still talents that you could choose, and you could still choose your sort of play style based around that. Mr. Pandaria had some of the best class design in the history of World of Warcraft, and I mean that from literally the start all the way up until now. There has never been a better class, or classes have never been better than what they were in Mist of Pandaria. So I would say Blizzard,
I can't argue that, by the way. I never played Mists.
No, I played 6 months of the start of Mist and 6 months at the end of Mist. And I remember thinking to myself, God, the Warlock plays like a fucking dream. This is exactly what an Affliction Warlock should be. And then they fucked it.
Of course. They don't know how to do anything else. Like, they see something good and they're like, there's something wrong with that. and somebody's like, what's wrong with it? It's not fucked. And then they go and they actually physically fuck it and then just leave it there like destroyed in the wayside.
Exactly. But yeah, I would argue probably. Like, look, in a perfect world, I would not want them to go past Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah. In a perfect world, and this is what I've argued before, I would like Wrath of the Lich King to take a different approach to bring out true Classic Plus, where you add new storylines, new things, basically make it arc in a brand new direction.
Yeah.
So you basically make WoW 2, but it isn't really WoW 2. It's just a different WoW. I would love to see something like that in a perfect world, but if we're arguing, like, could they still get away with it? I think they could get away with Wrath or with Classic until Mist of Pandaria. If they go further than Mist of Pandaria, I feel like it's a waste of time.
See, because of the fact that I still haven't made that video that I've been wanting to do forever about my special story idea, I'm just going to reveal it here. So my idea, guys, that I've talked with Accolonn about this, which I believe you thought it was a good idea as well, was like a really good step forward for Classic at this point, and a lot of people are probably going to disagree, would be for them to actually merge the two timelines, retail and Classic. And how do they do this? It would be something that would happen at the end of Dragonflight where we would lose. Because we're always winning. We always defeat the big bad guy. We always fucking win. Like, sure, Azeroth at some point was stabbed by a big giant sword and all of this, but we still fucking won. We still defeated everything, beat the old gods, beat this, beat that, beat the other. At the end of Dragonflight, we would lose. And because there's already a lot of themes around time traveling and whatnot in the game itself, then Chromie would kind of like send us back to Wrath of the Lich King right as Arthas is dying, which was effectively the end of Wrath of the Lich King as far as I can remember. And then at that point, turns out we needed something from Arthas that was going to enable us to potentially beat this thing in the future. And then the story would move forward from there, and Classic players would be given the choice. Do you want to stay in Classic? And they would develop this Classic Plus experience where you would be able to contribute towards the efforts of the people who move forward by continuing to do activities and other stuff that they would be adding in Classic. But you would also be given the option to move onwards onto retail, onto the next big expansion, which would kind of like merge the timelines. And, you know, there's like a million things that we talked about, like you talked about Azeroth potentially being evil and all of these great things, that the awakening of Azeroth, and there's like a million different theories that could actually support this. And I think that that would make for a fantastic like crossover thing and potentially even bring the World of Warcraft player base back together. It would just have to be a more hardcore expansion as opposed to a traditional retail experience. Like, maybe don't have like LFR. Let's fucking get rid of that. Maybe we just have like 2 difficulties and heroic just happens to be really fucking hard and normal becomes what heroic was, and we don't need mythic anymore. Instead of having like, oh, let's have 4 different difficulties for every fucking raid and all of this bullshit. Like, there would also have to be a lot of gameplay adjustments to ensure that the Classic players would be able to adapt to this like evolved retail experience, so to speak. And that would be the true WoW 2.0 almost. But, you know, that's just like, again,
enjoy that.
big story. I might still eventually make that video, but, you know, that would be the idea. You have to go back in time, get something from ICC or Arthas or whatever that is going to enable us to in the future do it. And then you kind of like relive parts of previous expansions changed because you now influence the events in a way that is more advantageous to us. Maybe Azeroth doesn't get stabbed. Things get a little bit weird, but I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Like, we've spoken about this offline before, and I can see them going many ways. They could go your direction. Another version of doing it is just to play around the separate timelines of World of Warcraft. You know, another version of it would just be to say, this is a different story using the characters that isn't in the expansions that follows. So you follow different sort of heroes of Azeroth as they deal with different threats. So you learn effectively that whilst Cataclysm was going on, there was this whole other thing that was going on at the same time that, these heroes were dealing with whilst you were taking care of Deathwing. And then maybe you go to Mr. Pandaria, and while you guys were on Pandaria, there was a whole different fucking storyline happening on Azeroth that you had nothing to do with, because the Horde and the Alliance have always had these, different sort of, let's say, teams of heroes. So Team Alpha is the one that went to Pandaria. Team Beta, and we're not talking Alpha Beta here as stronger, weaker, but Team Beta, or Team Delta, let's say Team Charlie went to Pandaria, but
Go
Team
through the
Delta,
whole alphabet, Team Zulu.
they went to a different thing. So you have and that could be really fun to dive into.
Yeah.
Just as you have these, it's basically the same timeline, but not the same story. And you sort of reveal things that had happened that players on Pandaria would not have known about, because the players of Delta took care of it while the players of Charlie was busy doing their thing. This could be like really fun things in a way that Blizzard could really explore, and I would have preferred that a lot more than, just another classic.
Let's go to Cataclysm Classic.
Yeah, I don't think the Cataclysm Classic is going to happen. Like, I genuinely don't. If Blizzard is sending out surveys to find out,
I don't think
a lot of people are going to vote for it. Yeah. It's just, at this point, you've done the classic experience. And you could stretch like I've explained, you could stretch the reasoning or the definition of classic to include Cataclysm and Mr. Pandaria. You could stretch it, but it is a stretch.
Yeah.
It's not actually classic anymore.
I think that
it is already more modern.
I think that fundamentally what's going to end up happening is they'll just start doing seasons of World of Warcraft, which, again, to me, they don't really make a lot of sense, because I think that seasons make sense in an ARPG because you can get to the end game reasonably fast by yourself. You don't even need anybody almost to get the end game. Like, sure, it'll probably be faster with friends, but you can get to the end game of an ARPG reasonably fast if you know what you're doing. Not the same for an MMORPG, and most definitely not the same for vanilla World of Warcraft. So it's like, how many seasons are you going to be bringing out until these players are completely churned out of spending like 2 months leveling to level 60 in vanilla World of Warcraft? Like, I get it the first time around, particularly for people that didn't experience it. And that was actually the time at which it seemed the most appealing to me. I didn't do it, but I was very compelled because, like I told you, I came in on the tail end of vanilla, so I never actually got the vanilla experience all the way into 60 and doing the raids. So I was compelled, but that was literally the only time in the classic experience where I was compelled, because it was an experience that I did not have. Now, if you've never done these things, if you were never around during Wrath of the Lich King, I can understand people going into Wrath of the Lich King to experience it for the first time.
Yeah.
But for people that have done it, it's just not for me. It's not for me.
Yeah, no, I think to be fair, the whole Classic Plus that Blizzard brought out was just a cheap money grab. It
the
was
Season of Mastery or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, the Season of Mastery thing. It was a cheap money grab. It was literally, and before people go, oh my God, it's free, dude. No, it's not, because you have to pay $15
You have to pay $15 a month. People forget about that.
It's not free. People obviously just like $15, who even cares, But the thing is, if you're going to talk about a Classic Plus experience, no one, not a single person dreaming of what it could be, thought that was it. It is the equivalent of your girlfriend saying a month before your birthday, hey, so I've got something really special planned for your birthday, and you're thinking, oh my God, it's anal time, bro, we're going to get this.
Oh, no.
So fucking good. And then you come home, and she's giving you a hand job, and it's like, what the fuck?
No,
what are you doing?
Dude, no.
So it's sort of like that.
Nothing wrong with hand jobs, but for a special occasion, I'll take the real thing. Thank you very much.
Like, fuck. It's like a hand job is like a Friday evening kind of thing.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Not even Friday, but it's like a Tuesday evening.
Like a good hand job is a good hand job, but I mean, like on a birthday occasion, like I want the real deal. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you want something that's out of the box sort of thing. And Blizzard sort of gave us the hand job of a birthday equivalent, you know? It's like, oh, wow. Really? This is like the best you could fucking come up with?
And the worst part, it wasn't even a good hand job. Like their hand technique was just like all wrong, bro. The rhythm was all wrong. It was not good,
I
man.
mean,
Not
it's the one
good.
where your girlfriend had a tough day and she's really fucking bored.
Just
So
like,
she puts her hands down your pants and she's actually reading on her phone while she's giving you a hand job. And, you know, that's sort of the hand job that you got from Blizzard. And it's like, oh, fuck. Yeah,
Not a good
that's kind of
experience.
that's the weirdness of it. Like, who at Blizzard thought to themselves, you know what people want? They want Classic Plus. And Classic Plus is going to be Season of Mastery. Like, dude, if someone came into my office, if I was in charge of this, and the dude came into my office and said, bro, we've had this fucking revolutionary idea for Classic Plus, and they gave me Season of Mastery, I'd be like, get out. Like, get
fired.
The fuck out of my office.
Get out.
That's
grab your shit and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Because is that the limits of your creativity? So that is how creative you can get with a Classic Plus. Dude, you don't even have to fucking go far. Like, look at Classic World of Warcraft and then say, I wonder what is kind of similar to this. Oh, look, there's another game here called RuneScape, old school RuneScape. What did they do with their quote-unquote Classic Plus experience? Yeah. Holy shit, they added all these things, and there's so much to do, and there's still thousands of players playing it Fuck, we could do that. Like, how hard could it be to do that? But no, we'll give you Season of Mastery, because that's cool and new, and not, like, unlike anything we've ever done before. It's like, dude, you guys are, like, Jesus. Your job as a game developer is to be creative. And you found the least creative way of doing a Classic Plus experience.
And speaking of
annoying.
absolute lack of creativity, I think that is the perfect launching point to the next topic, which is the Overwatch 2 Battle Pass. Oh my God. What an absolute lack of creativity when you're like, we're going to have this game. It's going to be free to play. Going to put a Battle Pass on it. And then we're going to sell you heroes on it.
But Rurikhan, it is Overwatch 2. It's a brand new game.
It's a brand new game.
Completely.
Yes.
To Overwatch 1. It's not even the same. It's got a PvE DLC.
Listen, Accolonn, let me tell you something. 5v5 as a format is completely and fundamentally different in every way from 6v6. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Changes completely.
That's what you need to understand.
Yeah. It's like going from chess to teamfight tactics. It's different in its entirety. I can see it. I'm convinced.
So basically, guys, for those of you that don't understand what's going on, so it's been leaked. I don't know if it's been officially I know that there's been some official talk around it as well. But Overwatch 2 is obviously getting a battle pass because every fucking game and their mother needs to have a battle pass. And in this battle pass, that is where you will be able to get the new heroes. Now,
it's not just a leak. It's been confirmed by Blizzard. Yeah. That's how it's going to happen.
So the situation here is, because, of course, when you have a battle pass, you don't just have like one track to the battle pass. You have the battle pass, then you have the premium battle pass, and then you have the ultra deluxe version of the battle pass. And they say the heroes are going to be on the free version of the battle pass. Mm-hmm. But, and there's a big but in there, like a big old but. But if you buy the premium version, you instantly get the new hero. Now, this is not me saying it, by the way, because I'm not an Overwatch pro, but I do know an Overwatch pro who is Stylosa, which I actually do know him personally. I actually got him. I introduced him to Dark Souls a long, long time ago, which was some hilarious videos came out of that. British people are funny, dude. British people are fucking hilarious. But anyway, so I watched Stylosa's video, and in that video, Stylosa basically says that, whenever a new hero comes out in Overwatch, it tends to be incredibly powerful. Yeah. It's almost like there's a theme in Blizzard. So Which thing can I think of? Let me just think real quick. When was it that Blizzard added a new class into the game? Oh, that's right. It was Wrath of the Lich King. It was the Death Knights. Now, were the Death Knights broken when they were? No. Were they, Accolonn?
It was good.
No, they were fine. Yeah. They were not broken at all. No, it was perfectly balanced. No problems at all.
I mean, it is completely acceptable for a guy to go into a battleground and have like 40 kills and 0 deaths.
Yes.
And everyone else just fucking runs away when they see him. Because that's like normal shit. Or when they added monks and they were also very balanced. Or demon hunters. Jesus,
demon hunters were
in the game.
Yes, demon hunters incredibly balanced. Totally not completely fucking busted beyond belief. Still to this day, I believe. Still busted to this day. Like beyond any.
I don't know, but I know they were super overpowered when they first
So it's like
came
you guys
out.
can kind of like see a theme from our experience in World of Warcraft. Whenever Blizzard adds a shiny new thing, it fucking breaks the game. Why? Because they want you to play with the shiny new toy that they brought up. That's usually how it goes.
Yep.
So naturally with Overwatch, Stylosa was making the claim that it's kind of like the same thing. Whenever a new hero comes out, it's usually meta. It's usually a meta hero, and it's just going to be a beast of a hero that is going to destroy everything. So fundamentally, when you have something like this behind the paywall, because remember, you can instantly pay to get the hero. Therefore, you can make the argument it's pay to win because you are paying to get the better hero. And even if you make the argument, which I know that some people will, because there's always Blizzard defenders out there, even though Blizzard doesn't deserve them anymore. There's always Blizzard defenders that are going to come up and say like, well, what if the hero is perfectly balanced, huh? What is your argument then? Well, my argument is quite simple. Overwatch, and again, this is not me saying it because I'm not an Overwatch professional. This is Stylosa, who I believe even did Overwatch coaching for a while, if he's not still doing it. But Stylosa basically said, and this is something that I agree with from what little I have played of Overwatch, because I did cover Overwatch significantly when it came out. Overwatch is a game based around counterplay. So somebody picks a hero on the enemy team. That hero is very powerful. It's damaging your team. You are able to pick a hero that counters that hero in order to negate that team's advantage. That's one of the things that you do a lot in Overwatch. You get in there, you're like, okay, the enemy team has, like, the examples I've given it, they're probably wrong because I don't remember what the counters were, but let's say, oh, the enemy team has a Mercy and this Mercy is playing really, really well. Then you could potentially counterpick with a Reaper, because Reaper can like teleport and do all this crazy shit, teleport behind enemy lines, bust up that Mercy's face, boom, done. Now imagine if the Reaper was the hero that is in the fucking Battle Pass thing. Oh, turns out that free-to-play players don't actually have the ability to counterpick for certain heroes by using the brand new one. So once again, pay to win.
I would argue there's a deeper problem that I have with this. And yes, people are saying, well, it's on the free track. Okay. I fully understand and support that. But what happens when the battle pass is over? Because
they've said that those heroes will return in other battle passes.
But that's the problem. Because even if that, so it will return in other battle passes, but it doesn't say that they will now be available in every battle pass. Just that maybe in 2 or 3 battle passes, that hero from the first battle pass will finally fucking return, or you can buy it straight off the shop.
Hey, it's a good deal, man.
Gonna be added to the shop.
It's a good fucking deal. Just buy the hero off the shop.
But here's where so first and foremost, it is that FOMO thing. It's that thing of like you have a fear of missing out.
Battle
the
pass,
other
man.
Problem is, of course, just the imbalance of the whole fucking game and how it's going to throw things completely out of whack. And what bothers me, what seriously fucking drives me up the wall about this, they have a blueprint again for how you can do this and make bank. League of Legends. League of Legends releases a new champion once every 2 months or so, sometimes faster, sometimes a little bit slower. It really depends. But they release new champions fairly regularly. Those new champions are also usually pretty fucking busted at launch. Either broken, entirely breaking the game, or broken, no one wants to play it because they're just shit. They also do reworks of classes of characters every once in a while. But those champions immediately launch onto the store like everything else in League of Legends. With one major difference. There are two ways of purchasing champions in League of Legends. The one is if you just play League of Legends a lot, you gain what used to be influence points or some shit like that. It was influence points and it was IP and RP, I believe, back in the day.
Yeah.
So influence points was the free currency that you got just from playing League of Legends. RP was the one that you had to purchase with your credit card or whatever the case was. Nowadays, most people purchase champions with whatever the equivalent is of IP nowadays. RP is almost exclusively used for skins. Skins, either ward skins or champion skins, something to that effect. No one uses it for champions because if you just regularly play League, like just for fun even, you do a couple of matches every night, you usually have more than enough IP to purchase the champions when they come out. Like, more than enough. League doesn't focus on making their money on their champions. Their focus is wholly on the skins, which is why whenever they bring out skins, those skins are phenomenal. Like, they change so much, and they have the ultimate skins that they release as well, which literally changes everything from voice lines to animations to everything on the champion. Not fucking with power. Like, it doesn't make it more or less powerful. It's literally just a reskin. That's where they make their money. Why could Overwatch 2 not do this? Why can't it have literally the same business model?
Because FOMO. That's why. Because they're creatively bankrupt. They can't even copy things that are, good for the consumer. Even though I would argue, I don't know if I would argue that League of Legends is good for consumers, but still, it's better because you can kind of like rack up those points. New champion comes out, you can instantly buy it. Boom, done. Problem solved. But no, it's going to be Battle Pass. It's going to be FOMO. It's going to be all of this nonsense because that's just the way the Blizzard does things. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about a video game that doesn't even need to exist to begin with because Overwatch 1 should have just been supported from the get-go. But then again,
I know
this project has been in development hell from the beginning, because a lot of people even forget that this project was supposed to be fucking Project Titan. This was supposed to be an MMORPG.
Yeah. I want to say, though, I know why they're calling it Overwatch 2.
Because they can sell
coming
the
up
box.
with a new Overwatch. Because just, again, for people that sort of going, but dude, it is Overwatch 2. It really isn't. It's Overwatch 1. The reason they're calling it Overwatch 2, when Overwatch 1 came out, during the promotion of Overwatch 1, Blizzard promised that all champions released will always be free for everyone. That was the promise that they made. That is legal. That's binding. You can't change that. You can't come out and say, FYI, we're now charging for champions because we want to make more money and you guys aren't buying enough skins. If you made a legal promise that all champions always... Because if they now turned around, people would sue them and be like, dude, I bought your game based on the premise that all champions will be free always. You've changed that promise. But now it's Overwatch 2. They're not bound to that promise anymore because they never made that same promise for Overwatch 2. It was only for Overwatch 1. And yes, technically speaking, for Overwatch 1, all champions launched in Overwatch 1 is still free. It is wholly a marketing scheme in order to get them free from the promise that they made at launch of Overwatch 1. Because, again, if we're looking at that game, so it's a graphical overhaul. Not a great graphical overhaul, not like it's massively changed since the original, but it is a graphical overhaul. We usually call those patches.
Yes.
In most other games, that's just called a fucking patch. Then it's the PvE that's come out, right? The stories that's coming out. Those are usually called DLCs. You have a DLC, and literally Blizzard has done this before.
And they had PvE and they had PvE in Overwatch. They had this bot map that you were able to do for, it was like an timed event that they did. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the PvE sort of storylines. So you're now getting storylines. But those are called DLCs. They did that in StarCraft. for StarCraft 2, they had all these story DLCs that they would launch as a way to try and make more money out of StarCraft 2 because they couldn't figure out how to monetize StarCraft 2. So they just monetized it by releasing all of the story in fucking bits and bobs in DLC. So they've done that before. Nothing stops them from doing that in Overwatch 1. All they had to do was say, oh, by the way, guys, we have this great story involving Tracer that we're going to be launching as a DLC. It's going to cost you $15 and you can play for 12 hours or whatever the fucking case might be, right? Nothing would have stopped them. That would have been perfectly fine because the people who care about PvP would just be like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about that. The people that care about that storyline would buy the DLC.
Yep.
Now they're going Overwatch 2 because we have PvP. And I want to guarantee you right now, Overwatch 2 is going to launch with a PvE scenario as part of the sort of deal.
No.
The next PvE.
The business model of it is actually the PvP thing is free to play. And then you buy the PvE thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing with... okay, so you have to purchase it for the original PvE. This is what I'm saying, right? If you... No, it's only free if you already own Overwatch 1.
Overwatch 2 PvP is completely free. It's free to play.
If you own Overwatch 1.
No, it's free to play.
I'm pretty sure you have to own Overwatch 1.
It's just free to play. Overwatch 2, at least from what I've seen so far, unless they changed it in the last week or so, it's completely free to play. Anybody can play Overwatch 2 PvP. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, they do say, you are correct. So they are saying that it's...
so what you are buying when you buy,
if you own Overwatch
when
1.
you buy Overwatch 2, you're buying the PvE thing, not the PvP thing. And they're probably going to give you like some bullshit currency or whatever.
I mean,
for
to
the
be
PvP
fair,
stuff.
but I think I understand now why so many people were a bit butthurt about it. Because a lot of people are like, oh my fuck, they're robbing us. And I couldn't understand why at the time. Because I had it as if you owned Overwatch 1, it was free. And if you didn't, you had to pay. But I understand now why so many people were butthurt at the time. Because the Overwatch 1 owners were like, dude, what the fuck? I bought this game.
I think they said that the skins move forward. So, like, the skins that you have in Overwatch 1, I think they move forward to 2, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's not the skins that people are complaining about. It's the fact that some people purchased Overwatch 1, and now Overwatch 2 is going to go free to play, so they basically wasted their money on Overwatch 1.
I mean, I wouldn't say... I don't think that's particularly reasonable. It's like, you didn't waste your money. You played the game.
I'm not...
I mean, I'm assuming the people that
I'm saying that's what they're complaining about.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the people that are complaining about it are the people that have been hardcore playing Overwatch 1. Like, it's not like I didn't get my money's worth out of Overwatch 1. Like I did.
I would say I didn't get my money's worth.
I played a ton of Overwatch 1. I played a ton. I loved it.
I found it like just wholly inferior to PUBG or any of the other battle royales out there.
It's not a battle royale. I don't even like battle royales.
Yeah, but it should be. It should be because it's a hell of a lot better.
No, we're going to hardcore disagree on that. I'm not a fan of battle royale. It's like everything.
Dude, battle royales are a million times better than fucking arena shooters. I hate arena shooters.
Listen, I'm a big boomer shooter guy, dude. I love fucking Quake. Quake 3 is my jam. Is like fuck this.
Hell no.
This little. Oh, I'm getting my little machine gun. Tap, 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 tap. No, motherfucker. I want to grab a rocket launcher, rocket jump into the air, and then blast you in the fucking mouth. That's what I want to do.
Screw that.
That's how
Give me
fucking roll.
A fucking large map, 100 people in it. Every man for himself.
And Overwatch, I was a fucking demon with Pharah because she had the rocket launcher, and that was my favorite weapon in Quake. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I would be murdering people mercilessly with Pharah. I didn't give a fuck. It was great. But I love boomer shooters, dude.
But anyways, the point that I was trying to make is, so the original Overwatch 2 launches with PvE. I guarantee you within the first year, there will be another PvE DLC. So a next chapter or a next storyline that unlocks. And that's not going to be free for everyone. That is going to be something where you're going to have to pay an extra $15 in order to get access to that storyline. Because that's now what Overwatch 2 is being set up to be. It is the continuous money-making machine that Blizzard wants. And again, I come back to the fact League of Legends, Riot and League of Legends made $800 million last quarter. That was their that was the overall money that they made, right? Their net income. Why is that not enough? Why will Blizzard not settle for anything less than $1 billion?
All the money, Accolonn, all of it. Not just a little bit, all of it. Anyway, now you guys know about the Battle Pass and how Overwatch 2 is going to take on at least some pay-to-win tendencies, which is fantastic for a PvP-based game, but it is what it is. Some people are still going to huff the copium, and it's whatever. Enjoy your games. Do whatever you want. Don't buy the Ultra Deluxe Battle Pass because that's a fucking scam, but,
I just wanted to throw it in here. This is what's going to kill the game. And before people go, dude, you have no evidence for this, we do actually. Every game that has done this. So, Battlefield. One of the things that killed Battlefield 1 and I think it was Battlefield 4 or 5 that actually got slaughtered because of this. They had this, it was 4, because 5 no one really liked. But Battlefield 4 had DLC after DLC after DLC introducing new maps and shit like that. The problem was that anyone who didn't buy the DLC didn't own the map. So
I don't think they're doing that for this.
No, but just hear me out, because I am bringing this around to how this is going to fuck over Overwatch and its player base as well. The problem was that now you ended up with this vast difference in player bases where some people had the new maps that they wanted to play on, some people didn't, and they could almost never play with one another because the people that had the old maps couldn't play with the people that had the new maps because they can't play on the new maps. The people who owned the new maps couldn't get enough people to actually play the new maps because most people didn't buy whatever DLC came out with whatever map. So you just had a split player base. The same is going to happen for Overwatch. The difference here is going to be people are going to get stomped in games where someone has the new champion and other people don't. And it's going to lead to a point where people are going, dude, I can't fucking play this because every game I get with someone who paid the premium edition or bought the premium battle pass, they already have the champion and we get stomped because we can't actually play against this champion. And they're going to quit because the only time games like this is fun is when you have an equal chance of winning to everyone else and it's purely based on skill. Whenever you get, this, you played a lot of Overwatch 1. Imagine if Mercy was a champion that was hidden behind the premium battle pass, right? And you got into a game, and we're talking old school Mercy, the Mercy that was
Heroes Never Die.
Yeah, whenever she went Heroes Never Die, you knew, never fucking mind, right? Now, imagine if she was a premium champion, that you were still in the beginning of your battle pass, so you hadn't unlocked her yet. No one on your team had unlocked her yet because no one on your team bought the premium battle pass, but the enemy team did. What do you do? Like, what do you do? You can't fucking play against this. You can't pick against it because no one on your team can.
You lose. This is when you lose because it's pay to win.
And that's when people quit because that's when people go, well, I can't fucking do this. And Blizzard isn't going to rest on their laurels either. That battle pass, you have to think about this, right? The battle pass needs to be set up in such a way that it takes you reasonably long enough to unlock the champion that gives them enough time to make another champion. Because the last thing they need is 7 months of no new champions coming out and also no new battle passes.
Not to mention that's
their money-making machine.
It goes back to the whole thing of like, oh, remember, there is the solution. You can just buy the premium battle pass, so they're going to make it harder and harder in order to incentivize you to get that premium battle pass. This is the way that these things are going to go. But anyway, that's Overwatch 2. I wanted also to talk about New World. Now, I've been playing a lot of New World over the last couple of days because, I did a video with Brian where he talked to me about the features that they're changing and whatnot. And there's a lot of things that they've improved on, even on the retail version. And there are more things that they're going to be improving on in the upcoming update, the Brimstone Sands that's going to come out in like October or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, for starters, I wanted to talk about one of the new systems they added, which I actually only started doing yesterday. and I thought it was hilarious. So they created a new trade skill. You want to know what the trade skill is?
Yeah.
Music.
Okay.
Now, I had no idea how this worked. I had seen people do it in towns where just like you're walking around and you would see somebody playing a music and the music changes. So like you have the in-game music, it mutes itself when somebody is playing and you listen to the music. Now, this is not like 14 where basically they give you a full-on instrument and you can play whatever the fuck you want. These are things that you collect as you go out through the world. You collect musical sheets that unlock more and more music that you can play. And there's different instruments. So like there's a guitar, there's like a, what do you call it? An upright bass, there's drums, there's a flute, and there's a mandolin. And all of these have like different sounds. So when you play a music, you can have other people kind of join you. And then I think that improves the buff that the music gives, because ultimately the music is going to give somebody a buff. So you're walking through town, you see someone doing this performance, and you might stop and you're like, okay, let's. The music is usually good. It's got like a decent rhythm to it. It's nice. And depending on the instrument that you are using, you will get like different tracks. So like if you're playing the guitar, you'll get a track of guitars, right? If you're playing the drums, you'll get a track of drums. So it's cool. It's nice and it's interesting. And you see this person performing the music. And then when the music stops, a thing pops up into every player that is in range of the player that was playing the music. I mean, assuming you're not in the menu. If you're in a menu, nothing happens. But if you're just watching, a menu pops and it says tip. So you can tip the person playing the music. And if you do, you get a buff. Because you only get the buff from the music if you tip them.
Okay.
Now, the tip costs like 10 gold, which is not really that much. It used to be a lot back when the economy was in shambles, but the economy is much better now, so 10 gold is not that much. So you can tip them 10 gold and you gain the buff. The buff varies depending on how good they were at playing the song. So if they were good at playing the song, the buff is going to be more powerful, and they tell you like, oh, the performance was great. They rated out of 4 stars, and the performance was great, whatever, and the buff, is going to be better. And, the 2 buffs that I've seen so far is like you can increase gathering speed or you can gain more territory reputation for 1 hour. Okay. If you pay for these 10 gold, you get this buff for 1 hour while you are walking around doing shit.
Yeah.
And now you're like, okay, so this is what you experience seeing it from the outside. So I had never done it myself. And last night, because a friend of mine that is into music started playing the game, I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to craft you because I have all of these professions. I don't have them like maxed out, but I can craft like low level shit for everything. I'm like, well, I'm going to craft you an instrument because you're all about music and shit. Tell me what instrument you want. So he wanted the upright bass. I got the materials, crafted it for him. I gave him the thing. He started telling me what it was like because I didn't even try it myself. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So I go and I craft all of the instruments for myself and I start playing it, and it's basically Guitar Hero. It's Guitar Hero. So how well you do on your Guitar Hero performance is going to give people a better skill. You also get 3 levels of difficulty, and they're accessible from the get-go. So it's like you can play music and you can play the easiest version. So you play it on easy and your buff is not going to be as powerful. Or you can play it on the hardest mode and your buff is going to have maximum potency if you manage to land the notes properly to get a good performance. And I thought that was really, it's a really neat system because you integrate into the game. Everybody gets buffs. The person playing gets money if people choose to take on your buff, if they tip you. And, it's a little mini game that you play, and the music is cool. I thought that was friggin' awesome. Yeah, and you can literally form a band. You can just have like 3 or 4 people, each of you with different instruments, and everybody playing for the same music.
Well, so here's why I like it. Because it again goes back to that the player is the content.
Yeah.
It's a system that feeds directly into. It's actually a very clever system. I do like that. Because we need more MMOs like this, and I think New World have sort of identified their own strength. Their strength is going to be the player. They had a miserable run of it, and I'm not sure how much of it they can ever claw back, because I do think they got really fucked by their launch. I don't know how many people are ever going to be willing to come back, but I do think that that's the right direction for New World, especially considering they want this more open world PvP-esque kind of feel to their game, and they want the sort of capturing and stuff like this. This is just another one of those ways of saying, right, you, the player, make the content happen. You are the content. That's why people play this game. I like it. I like it. I would love to see a sort of like array of different buffs. So not just the two. Hopefully there's a lot more.
No, I think there's many more. The thing is, I only unlocked those two so far because I literally started doing this yesterday just to check it out what it was like.
But yeah, so I hope there's more buffs. I hope also, like, it would be really cool, depending on how long it takes. But imagine if you could do this just before a dungeon or a raid or some shit.
Yeah, it takes.
Start playing and
each of the performances that I've seen was anywhere from it was less than 2 minutes to do the little music. Like all of them were less than 2 minutes.
That's like a really cool way of doing buffs in a dungeon, right? So you say, for example, have like all of you get out your guitars and your instruments and you choose a song that gives different buffs depending on which instrument you play on, and your party gets a damage buff of 10%, extra mana, extra health, and maybe a movement speed buff, right? Based on how good you play, and then once you've played, all of you get that buff. In dungeons, there's no tipping mechanic because that's not really why you're doing it. You're doing it for the buff.
I don't know how it would work if you were to do it in a party, if you still have to tip to get the buff or not. Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea how the system works. I only played a little bit yesterday.
I'm just sort of brainstorming what I would have made if it was me that came up with this, but I fucking love that system. Not because I would actively do it. I probably wouldn't. It's not really what I've never played Guitar Hero because it's not my type of game.
That's what you think is like. I'm not into Guitar Hero either, but it was strangely addicting when I was like, oh yeah, let me land this note, tune. Like doing a little mini game. It's fun. It's pretty cool. But again, I'm going to
be honest.
It's one of those side things, right? It's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, it plays into that you are the content. And yeah, I know that there's a lot of games that used to exist. I don't know if they exist anymore. They used to be like browser games. I don't know if you've ever played them, but there was one where you're a runner, right? So you're a 100-meter dash guy, but you have A and D that controls the guy's legs.
That's QWOP, yeah. And it's not actually A and D. It's QW and OP. That was the name of the game. It's QWOP.
Oh, yeah, some shit like that. But then you run and it makes all sort of weird shit as you go. And that's also addicting as shit because you try to get it as perfect as possible every single time.
And you never do because QWOP is terrible.
You always screw up. But, that's sort of what I would say makes, like, that's the kind of thing that you get from those games. And it's going to work in New World as well because there are going to be people that sort of do that as part of their RP, do that as part of just their gameplay and their
it's
enjoyment.
Like it's a trade skill, so you level it up. The more you play, the more it levels up, just like all of the other trade skills goes up to 200 or whatever. So yeah, it's
I like it. I really hope that New World does make money and does eventually turn around and become a good game because I will say the same thing that I said when I was playing Final Fantasy a lot and when I covered it a lot. I don't want Final Fantasy to replace World of Warcraft. I don't want New World to go the way of the dodo bird. I want more games because more games equals more better. Because at the end of the day, if you have World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, New World, Guild Wars 2, Star Wars: The Old Republic, and Ashes of Creation, all fucking banging, right? They're all just popping off. They can borrow from each other. They can learn from each other. They can look at what you're doing and why is that working? And is there a way for me to incorporate that into my game? And as they borrow from each other, they each get better because they don't. I heard this the other day. Someone said, oh my God, if everyone's borrowing from each other, we're just going to get the same game in 4 different versions. Like, no. Because it's going to be adapted. I'm going to look at what you're doing and I'm going to say, right, can I do this in my own way? So it's not going to be exactly the same. It's going to be similar in concept, but not in execution. And that is so important for the overall health of the gaming industry. So I want more games that just do phenomenal things. Plus, I will say this. I was looking at you 2 nights ago when I raided you while you were playing New World. and I looked at that world, and there was a part of me that just immediately wanted to fucking install because it is gorgeous.
It is a really gorgeous world it does have. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to bring up in regards to New World. So I don't know if you're aware or not, but one of the things that they are doing with the October content patch that they're bringing into the game, which is bringing like a whole new zone, which they say is like 3 zones worth of content or whatever, a bunch of new quests, storylines, all of this stuff, right, that's coming into the game. Assuming that's probably also going to increase, the traditional MMO thing, going to increase item levels, all of these things, right? But on top of that, one of the things that we talked about earlier was the new player experience. And guess what? New World is actually paying attention to that because everybody knows that the starting experience of New World is pretty fucking miserable. Right? You start on that beach and you go up to the NPC, and then the NPC says, go here, come back, go there, come back, go here, come back, get this, come back, get that, right? There's a bunch of bullshit like that, and most of the quests in New World, for anyone that has played it, you can usually boil down 99% of quests in New World to like, go here, kill 10 people, collect 5 things from boxes. That's it.
Yes.
That was like the questing experience of New World, right? They are revamping all of that. They're making a new player experience. I actually tested this because I went into the PTR because I wanted to see what it was like. And, it's not revolutionary. They say, we revamped the questing, all of this. It's different, right? So, for instance, at the starting zone, you are going to meet a new character while you are doing quests. So, like, the dude tells you, go here, do this, go here, do that. And one of those locations, you're going to meet another character. That other character is actually a little bit more dynamic. She's going to say, like, go get this thing over here, and then you go there, and the character actually moves to a more appropriate location for the quest to continue, instead of being this eternal back and forth and back and forth. So they're doing stuff like that. On top of it, I actually did like a quest that I think was special, some kind of an event, because I triggered something, and then a ship came, an actual ship started moving towards my position, and I was like, what the fuck? And then the big ship stops where I was, like mobs start spawning as if they're disembarking from the ship. It's not, they're not really disembarking, they're just kind of like spawning, but it is, intended like, okay, these mobs are coming from the ship. You defeat the waves of mobs that come from the ship, and at the end of it, you get to fire a cannon and blow the fucking ship up. So that was a really cool quest that I did in the PTR. That was another thing before that quest. There was a quest that I did where instead of you looking for stuff in boxes, they're like, you got to like destroy the resources of these dudes. So your character actually kicks a bunch of boxes into the ocean. Different animations, different objectives. Quests felt a little bit more dynamic. Supposedly they revamped like the first 25 levels of the game. I've heard people say that they're going to do that for all the way up to level 60, but I then watched the actual video of the developers, and they didn't say anything about doing it up to 60. They said, we're revamping it up to 25, and then we're going to get feedback from players and see where we go from there. So
I like it.
They're revamping the new player experience, and though this started up a discussion within the community of like, well, what about fresh servers? So people started asking for fresh servers, which for people who don't understand, what is the concept of fresh server? It's a server where you cannot move a character there for a certain amount of time. So anybody that starts playing on that server will start from level 1. Everybody at this, it's basically like relaunching the game for that one server, right? Everybody starts at level 1. Everybody does all the quests over again, which in a way makes sense because they're revamping the starting player experience. So it's going to give everybody like a little bit of a different experience than what it actually was when the game had been released. And the developers actually answered, and they're saying, we're hearing all the conversations about fresh world servers. We think they're cool too. We'll be talking more in the next couple of weeks, which is kind of like almost a soft confirmation. If not a confirmation, it's the developers kind of like prodding the community saying, hey, what do you guys think about this? It's almost like that. And now there's a bunch of people saying, I want to start fresh. Now, me personally, I don't want to start fresh in New World because I have like a fuck ton of trade skills leveled up, and sure, I had fun like gathering and doing I don't want to like level up crafting things again. That's just not me. I'm not doing that. But for the people that want the fresh server experience, I think it's cool. Like, what do you think about it?
I think so. My problem just with like fresh servers, it's sort of like this So do you want them to just reset all servers, or do you want specific servers that is completely fresh?
It's going to be new. They're not going to be resetting all the servers. That wouldn't make sense. So it's going to be new servers that will be fresh servers.
See, the reason I find that, like, I get the idea, but I think if you just want to start a fresh character, just fucking start a fresh character. The problem with adding new fresh servers is you're taking a player base that is already not that large.
Yeah.
Right? And it's going to take time. Final Fantasy took almost 10 years to win back players to the point where it now has just an abundance of players. So it's going to take time. It's probably going to be another 5-6 years of hard work before players go, oh my God, New World is actually a brilliant game. You're taking that player base and now you're splitting it off even more. I already think there's too many fucking servers in New World to begin with. Like, last time I played it, I don't know if
there's not that many, dude. There's not even 1/10 of the servers that were around when you were playing the game. I'm not even
okay.
joking.
That's good.
Because Europe has, I think it has like less than 8 servers right now.
Okay, that's brilliant because I remember when I logged in for the first time, it was just dude, you could scroll down a few times before you got to the end of the server.
Everything is in the same page now. Because there's not that.
I like that.
Although
that's good.
Although they're adding new servers because apparently their server structure is still old. You know, it's still that old fucking World of Warcraft realm list stupid nonsense. Like, bro,
I hate that.
Come on, man. Like, that was the biggest problem they had. And like, here's the hilarious part about it, right? You remember how that was the biggest problem that they had when the game launched. And then I get back into the game and they have the exact same problem. Like, I'm staring at 2,000 people queue to get into my server. So I moved out of my server, and now there's not enough people to do all of the dungeons that I want to do, which fucking blows. So it's like, you know, it's like, fundamentally, their biggest problem is still their stupid server structure, which is
so weird because Amazon does have some of the best servers in the world. So technically speaking, that game server should be able to go like way up.
The problem is the structure that they've built, right? Which is like you have these servers and there's a limit of 2,000 players per server. Actually, it's 2,200 right now, and I think they're working on getting it up to 2,500. But still, there's a limit of 2,500 concurrent players per server. That's just too small. That's fucking tiny, bro.
Although, it depends on the world because the way New World is set up, I can see why smaller servers is almost what they want to gun for. Because if you have a world where it's all about controlling resources and territories and you want this to be very dynamic, if you have 100,000 people on that server, it's a fucking mess.
Like I'm gonna tell you right now, if they remove the territory control bullshit, it would make zero difference to me. Just get rid of it. I don't care.
The thing is,
there's probably a lot of people that do care, but I'm just like, bro, I don't give a fuck about territory.
Sadly,
control.
such a core part of what the game is ultimately going to be that they can't really remove that. I don't mind smaller servers. I can get that, but obviously make more servers. But I would say be careful with it. The new server argument, I just don't see. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be fracturing the player base even more, and that's the last thing you want to do.
I think there's even a case to be made where, you know, like I said, I already know it's not for me because I don't want to be redoing the crafting things. Like the leveling up and stuff, I think that's actually pretty fun. I don't mind leveling up, doing combat, doing all of these things. That would be an experience that is actually somewhat tempting. But the crafting stuff, fuck no. I could never redo all of the crafting stuff that I've already done. I don't even like New World crafting. You were talking about you love I hate the crafting in New World because it's like, oh yeah, I get like fucking 50 million of this, 60 million of that, then convert it into 7 million of this, 7 million, then convert it again into this, then convert it again into that. It's like, bro, it's Inception. It's an inception of materials.
Yeah, but I think
it's like they keep piling on.
You see, I think you did the crafting wrong, if I'm going to be honest with you, because I think the way in which they wanted the crafting to work is you choose 1, 2, maybe 3 professions, and you specialize in those. And for all the other things that you might need from other professions, you go to the market boards and you buy it there. Because at the end of the day, it's so involved that
Yeah.
you're supposed to only have a couple that you're good at.
No, I
and
have
the
all
others
of them.
you just sort of leave.
All of
Yeah,
them.
but that's your choice, right? You decided to play that way.
I craft my own tools, god damn it.
And I didn't. When I played it, I didn't get far in the crafting thing. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't fun enough that I would fucking just play the game for it. But when I did it, I think I had 2 professions. I basically went and I said, okay, what are the weapons that I'm using? Great. These are the professions that I'm getting. And that was the end of the fucking discussion for me. I just needed the professions to make the stuff that I would be wearing and using. So I kind of get why it's so incredibly involved. But even then, I don't agree that new player servers should be a thing. I think if you want to start over, by all means, start over. And it's not hard. As they add new servers to the game, just start a character on one of those new servers. That is technically a new server, right? That you can start on.
But I think, like I said, I think that there's a point to be made in terms of like, I think there's going to be a lot of players that have a little bit of rose-tinted glass about, oh man, it was so great when I started playing New World and blah, and they're going to level up to like 20 or 30 and they're like, oh man, this is, I'm actually getting kind of bored. And at that point, they're going to be presented with a decision. Should I go back and play my main character? Do I invest more time into this character? Because now I'm in this community over here, but I'm not really feeling it. And they might end up in the middle of this indecision, end up not playing the game altogether. So yeah, it does segregate the player base. So I don't know, man. It's like I said, to me, it was very easy to go like, yeah, this is probably not for me. Like they would have to give me an incentive. They would have to do something special in order for me to go like, you know what? Sure, I'll roll in this fresh server or whatever. But without an incentive, nah, I ain't doing it.
Yeah. I think for me, the nice thing is whenever I play New World, it's going to be basically a new fucking experience because I zoned out for, I think from level 20, I just rushed. I just want to get to the end because I was bored already because, like you said, every quest, and guys, I'm not even fucking exaggerating here. It's not like I'm saying every quest and it's maybe like every 10th quest. No. Every quest is, oh, you have to go to this place. And not like mount or fast travel. No. Run with your 2 feet to this area. And then here, you're going to kill 6 things. You're going to loot 3 boxes. And then you're going to run back.
Yes.
And then it's going to give you a quest that's literally right next to the fucking place that you were just at on the other side of the fucking map.
Yep.
Again, go kill 6 of these and collect 3 boxes.
I'll tell you an improvement that they've done for that. You remember how you need Azoth to teleport? And that was not an easy thing to come by. I've been capped on Azoth pretty much since I've played, and I teleport everywhere. And I'm still fucking capped on it.
A massive difference.
Like when I'm crafting, I'm just like, how much Azoth can I stick into this thing that I don't even give a fuck about? It's like a 45? Yeah, stick 45 Azoth in there. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. It's like, I got Azoth coming out of my eyeballs, dude.
When I played it, it was like Azoth is...
Yeah, it was extremely
one of the rarest fucking things you can get. So
I remember.
It was rough. It was fucking rough because every teleport would be a question of, dude,
is this
can I afford to spend this Azoth or will I just fucking waste 10 minutes to run there? And then it's not even like you're not running like the crow flies, right? So you can't just go auto run. I'll go grab a coffee. No, you have to physically be there and
traverse,
go through the fucking paths, and it was a miserable fucking experience. So I'm glad that they're revamping it.
And I think they added more. I think they added more fast travel spots as well. And I think they're adding even more with the October update. I'm not sure, but I think they're adding even more. So there's a bunch of stuff with that they've been doing improvements. It's like, in my opinion, I think they're making all the right moves. And on top of it, there hasn't really been anything in the form of like, that I can identify at least, pay for convenience. I haven't seen anything like that. As a matter of fact, it's been the other way around where you remember how you used to like pay to transfer your items over from different things and your faction would have to control in order to be able like, dude, right now, any warehouse that you have unlocked, you go there and you have access to all of your warehouses. All of them. You just move everything at once, no cost. Just like boop, 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 shuffle things around, move things here, there, boom, done.
I get it. they were trying a bunch of new things.
Yeah.
They were trying to think out of the box. But like so other gaming companies and so many other MMOs that did the exact same thing at the start of their journey, they sort of tried to reinvent the wheel in a lot of cases where the wheel did not need reinvention.
Yep.
Where the wheel was just fine the way that it fucking was. You didn't need to try and come up with something brand new. And what I like is that unlike most MMOs, where, and there's been many like this, that just stuck to their guns, refused to fucking revert, and ultimately died as a result of that, they're sort of going, and obviously it's that Amazon money, they're going, okay, wait, we've learned a couple of lessons, we've seen where we've made some mistakes, we're gonna change this. Because just from what you've told me, it's basically a brand new fucking game.
I wouldn't go as far as a brand new game, but
and the stuff that they've updated.
There's a lot of things that no longer fight against you. Let's put it like that. It's more like, oh, I can actually just go ahead and do this, and boom.
To be fair, that does make it basically a new game, because the original fucking New World, everything was fighting against you. Like that game did its fucking damnedest for you not to play it. It was trying really hard for you to go, well, fuck this, I'm done. You win, you fucking win. I'll log out. I'm not coming back. So it is nice that they're sort of going this. We'll see, because we're soon going to see another game that is trying to reinvent the wheel in many ways, or at least reinvent the wheel in many ways. Ashes of Creation.
I don't think soon is the word you're looking for there.
I mean, when I say soon, I mean soon TM, like the old school Blizzard soon, right? It's on the radar.
In a couple of years, we'll talk about Ashes.
I think they said beta is sometime in 2023. So they are ramping up. I don't know exactly how, but I think I just want to point this out. Again, we've gotten through about 3 or 4 topics in 2 hours.
Yeah, great.
We just do not fucking get through all topics. It's just not possible.
Oh man! But yeah, we'll see how Ashes pans out, how New World pans out. But taking us to a company that is doing the exact opposite of New World, where New World is trying to be more friendly towards its players. This is a company that is a bunch of fucking scumbags, and they keep putting out the most minimum viable product. And now they want to charge you $70 for this minimum viable product. We're obviously talking about Ubisoft and how Yves Guillemot is basically pointing out like, oh yeah, our future AAA games are all going to be costing $70. Basically, obviously, this is something that I feel like Sony kind of really got the ball rolling on that particular discussion. And Ubisoft is now jumping in. Yeah, we're going to do that too. Now, the thing about this that really fucking pisses me off, that pushes my buttons in so many different ways, is that when you're talking about a Sony game that costs $70, you're talking about a Last of Us, even though Last of Us 1, I don't think should cost $70 because it's a game that came out on PS3, PS4, and now PS5. I don't think it's particularly fair that games cost $70, but, that's a whole nother discussion. But when you talk about things like, say, a Ghost of Tsushima, when you talk about a Horizon Zero Dawn, when you're talking about a Spider-Man, these are premium gaming experiences, depending on whether or not you enjoy this type of video game, obviously. But at the end of the day, when you play one of these games, at least from my memory, because I've played all of them, from my memory, I don't remember jumping into one of these games and having my face instantly blasted with a fucking ad telling me to go to their fucking store. There are no purchases for stores, for cosmetics, for any of this fucking bullshit, at least from what I can remember. And therein, I can go like, okay, so you're making your games cost $70. Whether or not, people are going to agree with that, it's whatever. But at the very least, you're not blasting me non-fucking stop with cosmetic microtransactions. And in the case of Ubisoft, they're going to charge you those $70. And then when you log into the next Assassin's Creed, whatever the fuck one happens to be, they're going to be like, all right, so you paid us $70. Now we want 10 more for a coin doubler, 10 more for an XP booster, 10 more for a materials booster, 10 more for skins, and all of this fucking bullshit, and we're going to use any psychological manipulation tool at our disposal to trick you into going onto our store, and we're going to give you a little bit of money. We're going to give you that first hits for free, but that first hit is going to be like 200 coins, and it's not going to let you buy fucking anything of worth in the store, so that you actually go in there and put your own fucking money on it and give us money. And when it comes to that, I'm like, Ubisoft, you can take your $70, shove them up your ass, because you people are fucking scum. Absolute fucking scum of the gaming industry. Get together right next to EA and all these other bullshit companies. Get fucked.
I mean, I would argue that I don't have much to add to this, because you've pretty much said everything that I believe myself. But I would argue Ubisoft have been worse than EA and Blizzard and all the rest of them for a really long time. Blizzard is trying to get up to Ubisoft's level with Immoral and stuff like that, but
they're struggling to get there.
You have to really try to get to where Ubisoft is. But it's actually worse than that, because yes, Ubisoft is basically now paving the way for all other gaming companies to start doing the exact same thing. But here's where things get grind my gears. When the first cash shops came out in video games, we were told that there is a hard cap to the amount that they can charge for a video game, and that is $60. They can't charge more than $60 because the consumer simply rejects the amount that's higher. So if they try to charge more than $60, no one buys the game. People won't do it. And games have become so expensive to make that $60 is no longer worth it for them. They're just not making enough money. So we have to accept the cash shop because they need to make more money.
This is their argument. You're not agreeing to this.
No.
Okay.
That's what they told us. Okay. That's what they told us. The bullshit is all around us. All the way back with CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red spoke about this at length. It's one of the reasons CD Projekt Red have refused to work with publishers ever again, and they now have their own publishing house where they publish their games, because when they launched Witcher 3, they were told by the publisher that, listen here, we're willing to publish your game in the US, but you guys want to add a game manual and a playbook and a bestiary and some stickers? Yeah, we're not going to do that for $60. We're not going to do it. And they were like, but that's literally part of the package. That's what the game has to ship with, is all of that shit. And they were like, yeah, but we're not doing that. Not for $60. We'll do that as part of a collector's edition or an exclusive edition, but not for $60 base dollars. And they were like, well, no, because we're doing that in Europe. You need to do that in the US. They had to fight to get that company to include, and CD Projekt Red said this, the game manual and the stickers and everything, mass-produced, costs less than $1 to do. So they're basically losing $1 extra on game sales.
It's so that is one of the things that I absolutely respect on, and I bought the Switch version of Witcher 3. I've never even played it. I was just like, I just want to buy it because they do the thing where they put the fucking manual in there. And it's like, for a lot of people, like, that's so dumb. Why would you spend that money? And it's like, because it's important to me that more people do this. Like, this is an important thing. Like, people no longer have the ritual of like driving home. And when you were a kid, your parents would be driving you home and you'd be like reading the man. And if it was at night, you'd wait until they drive through the lights, and every light you'd get a glimpse of the manual.
Oh, yeah. You would look at the pictures
or
and
sitting
read
on
the stories.
You know, your first time playing, taking a shit, right? And then just like, reading the manual in the bathroom. Bro, come on, man.
It was beautiful.
It was glorious.
And that's exactly it. According to CD Projekt Red, even at $60, they're still making bank. Like, they're making more than enough fucking money at $60 to bring these games out. The gaming industry says, no, we're not making enough money because it costs us so many fucking millions of dollars to make these games. Even though they never actually speak about the fact that, because they all use the same logic. They say $60 have been the price for 2 decades. Games have basically become 20 times more expensive than what they used to be back 20 years ago. And so we have to charge more, but we can't charge more because you guys don't want to pay more than $60, so we need the cash up. They never mention that gaming audiences have exploded since 20 years ago. These days, there are billions of gamers around the world that wasn't there 20 years ago. Nowhere near that. Gaming 20 years ago was a fucking niche interest. I remember because in school, I was one of 4 people that played video games, at least publicly. 4. It was me and 3 other friends that played video games. Everyone else never fucking... They didn't even own PCs. And they didn't play games.
And not just having bigger audiences, but on top of it, and this is another thing that I like to bring up, is like the development tools have evolved. You can do more with much less. So it's like, what kind of argument are we having here? Like, it is actually, in a lot of ways, it is actually cheaper to make video games now than it ever has been. Now, you can argue, but my 4K assets, like, hey, if you want to like make a super omega 4K, whatever, premium balls to the walls, whatever, dude, guess what? That ain't your fucking your recent Assassin's Creeds, Ubisoft. Go suck a dick, all right?
No,
your shit, your shit ain't no fucking like omega super duper graphics.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
But that's not even just that. A lot of these companies are wasting their money on AAA fucking movie stars because apparently that's going to sell more fucking copies. And it's like, actually, no, I didn't buy Cyberpunk because Keanu Reeves was in it. I was going to buy Cyberpunk either way. It was just sort of cool that Keanu Reeves was in it as well.
You remember when they put Peter Dinklage in the original Destiny? They put Peter Dinklage. He was the voice of the Ghost. Yeah, in the original Destiny, the voice of the Ghost was Peter Dinklage, and then they had to get Nolan North to replace everything because, you know, Peter Dinklage is a fantastic actor on screen. His voice acting was not, I mean, it was okay. It was not as good as his acting on screen because voice acting and screen acting are two very different things, right? Yeah. Two very different skills. And so Nolan North then came in and they had to re-record all of the dialogue lines for the original Destiny with Nolan North. I didn't even know this. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's really why it's so expensive nowadays, because they keep focusing on the wrong shit. Yep. But even then, even with all of that, Cyberpunk had Keanu Reeves in it. It was a giant game. It is beautiful as fuck. That game took many, many years to develop. It was as expensive as video games can fucking get. And it sold for $60 fucking dollars. That's it. No cash up, no bullshit. Just $60. There you go. Done deal. It had its other problems, but well, we're just focusing on the price right now. Although those problems were mainly because of console peasants that wanted to play our games. Oh my god,
that's a whole different story.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. If you want to be a gamer, get yourself a fucking PC. It's just as simple as that. But I didn't have problems with the PC.
What the problem is nowadays is that unfortunately, because of the fact that governments have successfully segregated communities, people will take what you just said and they'll be fucking pissed at you. They'll be fucking livid. They're gonna be fucking this fucking elitist piece of shit. Fuck you. They're gonna be mad, and it's like you need to a lot of people don't understand the concept of banter. Like I play a ton of games on consoles, and it's like just don't get offended by everything, guys. Relax.
I want to point this out. I do not hate the console peasants.
I thought you were going to double down. You should have said, I want to point this out. I mean literally everything I just said.
No, not at all. No, I don't hate the console peasants whatsoever. Look, the royals need the peasants. Without you, we would not exist. Like, you guys do the heavy lifting. Like, you all buy your little consoles.
I predicted
you pay $60 for those games so that we can get the good games. So I can't fault you for this. Even the nobles needed the peasants. So, you guys are doing the heavy lifting and I love you for it. But don't complain. It's beneath you. Well, actually, it's above you. You're not allowed to complain. You're the peasants. Just accept this, right? As a PC royal, I find I really find it offensive that you guys would
just
complain.
Gonna casually walk out of frame, leave. I don't want any part of what's coming after this.
Anyways, just back because we are running out of time, so I'll make my point. That was the reason they said we're not allowed to, like, they have to have cash ups. Now they've gotten their increase to $70, but they're sticking to the cash up.
Yeah.
So what's the new excuse? You've just gotten your increase. You now can charge $70. But now you're going to say, well, actually, we have to really charge $90, but because you guys won't pay $90, we have to have the cash up. And then in 10 years from now, they're going to have the same fucking excuse. And before people go, yeah, but Accolonn, there's all sorts of inflation things that you have to keep in mind and all that shit. Go suck a dick.
Yep.
The number of gamers far exceeds the inflation numbers. And we're not talking modern day inflation.
And here's another thing.
Rough.
Here's another thing that always pisses me off. I wonder how many people still think that Hollywood is bigger than video games, because it's not. The video game industry fucking dwarfs the Hollywood industry right now.
Yep.
So wake the fuck up and stop talking about, it's because of the inflation. Listen, the inflation is a real thing. I'm not saying that, the inflation. No, of course the inflation is a real thing. It's a real serious problem. But when it comes to the video game industry, you've been sold a fucking bad bill of goods. Wake the fuck up, dude. Like, the video games industry is one of the most profitable industries in the fucking world. And they're walking around like, we're so miserable. We make no fucking money. We haven't been able to increase the price of video games. It's like, motherfucker, a piece of shit like Diablo Immortal made $100 million in 1 month. Suck my fucking dick with all of this conversation about, the inflation. Fuck you. It's like, what the fuck? And the best part about it is, like, everybody's always talking about how, we have to look out for the developers. The developers are being crunched. All of these things are happening to developers. Do you honestly believe that any of these $10 are going to the wages of developers? No. These $10 are going straight into the pockets of executives and investors, and nobody else is going to see a fucking dime of it, and they're still going to be asked to crunch nonstop until they fucking die.
Yep.
So don't give me no fucking sob story about inflation and my poor developers, because when I actually see the companies actually pay the developers, then we can start having those conversations. But when people are living in, like, houses that are shared by fucking 8 people in a house that was made for 2, and they can't afford to eat food at the company cafeteria, until that situation is solved, then we can start talking about how we can increase the price of video games.
True. But I will say this, just for anyone that might sort of have who might not agree with this sort of thing. Okay, when you look at the rise of video gamers, it is last year there were 2.68 billion gamers in the world. It is set to increase to 3.1 billion gamers next year, based on the average growth of around, I think, 5 to 10%, which means that the arguments that they make where, oh my God, 20 years ago, we were charging $60 and, games have become so expensive to make. It's like, bitch, please. If we trace those numbers back, the number of people that now play video games is dwarfing whatever the fuck argument you can make for how expensive video games have gotten, because more people are now buying your games. And we can see this purely based on the fact that only in the last 2 years we've had 3 games that have broken the record for number of games sold in their first week by, like, not close, FYI. It wasn't close. These games sold over 10 or 13 million copies in their first 3 days. 3 days, because that's how that record works. It's the most numbers. The number of copies sold within 3 days was 13 million. If you go back to, let's go back 20 years. Do you think there was any game 20 years ago that sold 13 million copies in the first 3 days? Impossible.
Nope. And here's the thing. Assuming your numbers are right, I haven't seen the research on the whole how many gamers are projected to be next year. To put things into perspective, guys, if 3.1 billion people are going to be gamers, like at what point next year? Some point next year, I'm assuming?
Some point next year. I've got the charts in front of me here.
The current, the projected human population, that is the entirety of humanity, in mid-November 2022, this is from the United Nations website, the projected human population is going to be 8 billion. So 3.1 of those 8 billion are playing video games. Okay?
Yep. I mean, I'll put this to you. So the article references, it says in 2020, the global gaming industry's revenue is set to hit $165 billion with 2.7 billion gamers worldwide today. That is in 2020. That was already in 2020. So we're probably already over 3 billion fucking gamers at this point. And that number is probably a lot higher than it was.
Out of 8 billion people in the world. So it's like when you start thinking about like, economy, yes, the economy is a problem. Not that much when it comes to video game sales, okay?
But it's more than that, because again, I'm getting so fucking frustrated as I think about this more and more, because it's so much bullshit. Their arguments make no sense. They say, first and foremost, we've been charging $60 for 20 years, and games have become so much more expensive. But what they fail to explain is that they have cut the cost of making discs. They have cut the cost of even packaging. For the vast majority of games, people download those games. You don't have to pay all that fucking money to make every single PC case or gaming box with all the box art on top of it, with the copyrighted stuff that you probably have to pay if you got an outside artist or even your own artist. You have to pay copyright so that no one else steals that art. And then you have to make the fucking disc, which would also be a pricey little endeavor. It's bullshit. You've cut the cost of most games. Back in the day, all games launched with some form of a manual. It was bog standard. And a lot of games would launch with stickers and stuff inside, or maybe like I remember I played a game, I can't remember what it was called, but it had like a flip out chart. Like you would unfold it and it was this map and it was interactive and shit. Like all games launched with that box price for $60. You've cut all that shit. Nowadays, when you pay $60, you're happy you're lucky if you get the whole fucking game. Right? Like most of them will only give you half the game if they fucking could get away with it. Never mind extra shit. You don't get extra shit. Like just the other day on Steam, I saw that I can buy, like there was a game, I can't remember what game it was, but I think it was Chaos Gate actually. Like you can buy Chaos Gate for I think $40, but then you have to pay another $5 if you want the soundtrack to the game. It's like, motherfuckers, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean?
But wait,
the soundtrack is probably game.
It's probably like a separate soundtrack, like MP3 files. I'm assuming that's what that is because I've seen that before.
I genuinely don't know.
It can't be like, the game has no music.
No. It is a separate sound file. I'm not saying that the game doesn't have music. I just mean, like, one would argue that as far as like things that you could just include in a normal fucking $40 price tag, the soundtrack sort of just goes, yeah, fine. It's
a digital soundtrack. It's not like a disc. It's not like a disc, but yeah.
Yeah. Plus, the music is already there. Like, you could just play the game and listen to the fucking music. So you may as well just put the music, like, make the soundtrack part of the original. They don't even do that anymore. Yeah. So these companies have cut costs at every fucking turn. They've overcharged as much as they could and made cash shops for literally everything that you could fucking imagine, and they're still complaining. They're still like, we have to charge a little bit more. It's
the funny thing is, usually the ones you see crying the most are the companies that like end up making video games that have the worst monetization practices in them. And then the other companies that are just like pumping out good fucking video games, they're not complaining about anything. Like From Software made Elden Ring potentially Game of the Year this year. Probably the biggest competition is going to have, I imagine, is probably going to be God of War for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so you're talking about a company who's made a Game of the Year contender game, sold millions of copies, and hasn't complained one peep about fucking inflation. Shut the fuck up. Like the companies that, because they know that they can make good money if they just make good games. So they focus on making good games instead of making fucking monetization schemes. So don't come to me with your Ubisoft sob story about, inflation. Suck my fucking dick, Yves Guillemot. Actually, don't. Probably have bad breath, motherfucker. Fuck you. Anyway, that is the Ubisoft situation, and if anybody wants to argue any further about that, because I know that some people still like to go into the comments and be like, oh, but the games are so much more expensive now. You can tell it to the hand, buddy, okay? Here, the hand will tell. She will listen to everything, everything you have to say. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. We had more topics, but we'll probably get to some of those next time around. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, Accolonn stuff is going to be in the description. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.
Peace.